We are back with episode 8 of season 5, and before we jump in, I want to highlight that we partnered with our good friends over at Shillr to co-present this season. I've been advising Shillr for the last year as they help consult and market some of the most vibrationally aligned companies in the space. They're releasing their new season of Curated alongside this season of We Do A Little, so be on the lookout for new episodes from them, including some of our favorite people such as Brian Brinkman, Sasha Stiles, Chris F., and more. Links to their podcast are in the description of the episode. We're also very excited to announce that the rest of Season 5 is sponsored by Towns. Built on Base and running on River, Towns is a decentralized and permissionless group chat app that allows anyone to create and own digital town squares on their own rules. Available on web and iOS at full end-to-end encryption, users can join or create feature-rich towns with native on-chain gating, paid memberships, and more, with tons of exciting features and rewards coming soon. We're also doing a little collabing with our friends at Shillr in a joint town for our communities, so make sure to tap in to get access to some Towns exclusive giveaways, rewards, and more. Head over to towns.com to get started. The link to join our town with Shillr is in the show notes below. Without further ado, let's dive into this week's episode. In the 8th episode of Season 5, we're doing something a little different. Instead of me interviewing someone else with Andy or Benny, they're interviewing me. We go deep on the 7 stages of grief, the importance of pseudo anonymity, trading psychology, compounding relationships, the transition from playing video games for 12 hours a day to crypto, and more. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Andy, Deeze, and guests may be invested in companies or tokens talked about on this podcast.
This is Andy.
Yeah, I'm Deeze.
Welcome everybody to episode, I don't know what number this is. No fucking idea of We Do A Little. This is this very special episode tonight, or today. It's the morning.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Actually, I didn't know we were even doing this. I just sidetracked. You know who reminded me that I was doing the podcast with you guys this morning?
Amira?
No, Sneaker Dad texted me and said, I can't wait to see you tomorrow. I said, great. He's like, have fun this morning. I was like, what's this morning? And he's like, and then I texted you guys, I was like, yo, are we doing something this morning? I had zero clue.
Just how we planned it.
Just how I planned it.
So
anyways, this is
one more side note on that. Allie is, because we're doing this in my apartment, and Allie's like, so what's the schedule for the week? Are you doing something on Monday? I was like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. And she's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know. I wish I could give you more. Like, I think we're gonna do something, but I do not know.
Send her the spreadsheet.
It's at some point at some time.
Send her the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
The spreadsheet, yeah. This is a very special episode because Andy and I are gonna flip the script today, and we are going to interview one of our favorite people in the whole entire world. You know him as Deeze. We know him as Deeze, and we are gonna interview you today. We're gonna go deep. We're going to try to see
Deeze
who
lore.
you are. We want people to know, right, Andy? We want people to know what we know.
Yeah.
Why we love him.
Some of what you know.
Who's the man behind the blue Lululemon employee discount?
Yeah.
Wearing nice scrubs.
Well, those are nice scrubs. So I say let's dive deep into it.
Yeah, let's get after
Okay,
it.
we're going to ask you some tough questions. I think that, we're going to ask you questions as if we don't know you.
Okay.
Because I feel like there's a lot of people who
Don't know me.
Don't know you, but know you on Twitter.
Yes.
You are
my Twitter personality.
You are a very popular Twitter personality. Let's be honest. You are one of, I would say.
Wait, what was? Were you in a tier 1 KOL rank? Isn't someone doing like KOL ranks on Twitter now?
I don't know. I got the Capsule House anime thing as a KOL.
What's a KOL?
Key opinion leader.
Oh,
I'm not a KOL.
I am definitely not a KOL.
No.
They took the influencer name and they made it grosser, and now it's a KOL.
So now it's called KOL and not
influencer.
Yeah. So when you do like now, if you're doing an angel round for people who are gonna shill your bags on Twitter, it's a key opinion leader round.
Got
Yes.
it. Well, neither you or I are key opinions or leaders.
No, honestly, I think I might have set a record for all-time low engagement on Twitter per follower. And I still have not qualified for the payments.
I mean, how about this? It makes you feel any better. I don't even know how to check engagement. I'm still trying to figure that part out. Everybody's like, what's your engagement? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So.
I set a record
You did?
for myself on the engagement checks. I got like $1,300 from the last check.
That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I've never qualified for
No.
the checks.
Normally it's $200 to $400 every week. Last one because
$400 a week.
or 2 weeks. Sorry.
Oh, okay. That's still pretty good.
That's like some people make that as a salary.
right?
They're like,
to do what I'm doing. It's
Yeah.
like they're just paying me to do what I do on Twitter anyway. So
And what you do is so great. So let's. I want to start with. I probably think the biggest question that most people have. You are a key opinion leader, a Twitter influencer, a vibes master. I think somebody who people really connect with. You don't take yourself too seriously. I think it helps with your tweets because you can kind of tweet whatever you want.
yeah.
But there's this sphere of like you're on Twitter and you connect with people, yet you're anonymous and you almost don't connect all the way because of your anonymity. What about your being anonymous is important to you? Because I think a lot of people are kind of like, hey, I just want to know who he is more. And being anonymous, like I get for artists and some influencers, I understand. But is there something else besides just like safety reasons that really makes you feel comfortable about being anonymous?
Yeah, 2021 kind of the NFT NYC stuff in 2021 kind of reaffirmed how much I like being anonymous because I was hanging out a bunch with Farouk and a few other friends who were very outwardly, themselves on Twitter, and seeing people run up to them and be like, "Hey man, I love you," like, like it overwhelmed me, and they weren't even coming up to me. I was just like this far away. I think I'm a pretty introverted person. Like I'm pretty social online, but I don't like big groups of people. Like I don't like a bunch of attention. So for me, like there's really only upside in staying anonymous or pseudo anonymous. Like if you go to any of these events, you're gonna probably find me anyway.
Right.
And I've connected with 500 plus people in person. So I'm not super anonymous.
you're not like hiding in the shadows.
No,
Right.
like there's people who won't come to events because they want to remain anonymous. And I'm not that far on the spectrum, but I don't want people to
But you're definitely on the spectrum.
yeah, I'm on a couple spectrums. I definitely don't want people to be able to just like Google my name and then find our house and like
Right.
it only takes one person to really like create problems.
It's
And
like,
I've already
you,
had
you told you shilled this koi and now I'm mad
like,
at you.
dude, you shilled anime,
Right.
and I bought it, and it's down 80%.
And it's 100% your fault.
Right, your fault.
Like I
You
put
did
my
this to me.
entire net worth into that coin you tweeted about, and I gotta take it out on you.
Right.
So I don't want any of that. I think I am just like an overly paranoid person too. Like a bunch of weed doesn't help that. Always thinking about like what could go wrong. A couple guns in the house, security cameras everywhere. It's like
You guys need to get a dog or something then too.
yeah,
I
we have
feel
a
like.
cat.
Yeah, the cat's not gonna
Jess
help.
wants a dog so bad.
You have the
That's
space for it. I feel like it'd be a good. Go get a nice big like a German Shepherd or something. It's
no.
too good.
I'm telling her we can't have a dog until we have a kid. But yeah,
Maybe do it at the same time.
That's the answer. by
I
the way.
want the kid.
That's what we did, and it was the best.
I
idea.
want the kid to pick out the animal because I remember being 6, 7 years old. We got our first dog, and it was like the best thing ever. Like I remember the day that it was a puppy. It sat on my lap, and then I remember
I
the
love
day
that,
he died.
but I will tell you this: we got a dog right before.
You
my
have a
wife was-
dog right now?
Yeah.
I've been to your house. How many times? You
Oh,
have a dog?
I leave it upstairs so it doesn't eat you.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't think I've ever met your dog.
No, he's a family dog. He's not a
Not a friendly dog.
he's
just
not a
family.
very personable dog.
Yeah.
He got attacked by a pit bull, and I saved his life. It almost chewed his arm off, and I grabbed the. I swear it's a true story. I grabbed the pit bull by the neck, and you know,
Shit.
yeah, you know how like I guess I found that after I was wrong, but supposedly like you hit. I remember someone telling me if you hit a dog in its nose,
Oh, it's like a shark. You hit the shark in the nose.
but someone does like, no, you hit a shark in the nose. But for some reason it worked, and I hit the dog obviously in the right spot, and it let go because like pit bulls like grab onto you, they let go, and it bit my hand. It like bit up my whole hand, and ever since then my dog's been very skittish. It was
I bet. I
yeah,
mean, so,
like 7 years ago.
okay.
But
So-
anyways, what I was saying was we got the dog, then my wife got pregnant, and the dog was very young. And there's something really amazing about my older child, who's around the same age as our dog. Like we gave it its blanket when it got home from the hospital, and we kind of like the dog grew up with my daughter. So like it's like they're sisters.
They're
And
like
there's
best
something-
friends.
Yeah. And that's like something really nice. So like I get like the picking out like when you're older, but when kids grow up from like literally childhood with a dog, to me it kind of like makes them have that better relationships with animals, which I know is a very side, has nothing to do with this, but I think when people are really good to animals, they end up being really good people to other people, right? Like people who aren't nice to animals usually are not nice to human beings.
No, it's normally a red flag. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
the-
big
like-
time.
somebody can't get along with our cat. It's like, dude, this is like the nicest animal. I feel like it's similar to, you know, how do you treat somebody who has nothing to give you? It's like very similar to an animal. It's like, how do you treat something that can't do anything for you?
Yeah, well, like the dog, you come home and a dog and a cat is like, I mean, cats are a lot smarter than dogs because dogs are dumb. But like, you know, they're like, it's like the best thing ever in the whole entire world. Like, oh, I've been waiting for you to come home.
My issue with the dog is they don't live that long, and then it dies.
Nah,
and
they
then
live like 12 something years, man. 13
dude,
years.
both our dogs were like 8 and 9,
That's
and it was
still
just like, fuck, like
it's part of life.
you didn't get enough time with them.
So let's wait, let's explore that.
Anonymity.
Whoa, let's explore that for a second. So what about the losing something means? Why is that like it's like obviously it affects you. Like, is that something from the past or?
I mean, it's just a cycle of grief. It's like you have it with animals. You have it when a friend kills themselves. You have it when you lose $500,000 on a bag over a week. It's like the cycle of grief. You go through, holy shit, I'm so angry. I can't believe it's going to happen.
How deep are we allowed to go right now? Did you have a friend that?
Yeah.
And what was the story with that?
He was the first mentor I had out of college at my old job. And 2022 summer, I got a text from his wife a week after we had hung out, and it was like, hey, you know, bad news. And yeah, I don't think I'm probably still not over that one. That, you know, there's certain things around your house you look at and it reminds you of that friend.
Yeah.
It's like we have pictures of his wife and kids on our fridge. Sometimes you see that, you're like, fuck, like it's been 2 years already. It like
How many kids did he have?
2.
Is that something that triggered you to want to have kids when that happened?
No, I want it. We've been trying to have kids for like 2+ years now. I actually probably need to take a break from weed is the next step on that journey. But yeah, the whole losing a friend thing, like I talked to Blockhead a lot about this because his, you know, one of his whole things was he lost a friend, I don't know, 10 years ago now, 8 or 10 years ago. And like he talks about it all the time. And I never understood, like, I could empathize with it, but I couldn't empathize with it. And then when it happened to me, I'm like, holy shit, like I get why you think about this every day. It's not just like oh yeah, think about it once a month or once a year. It's like little things. Like, I mean, looking at a printer reminds me of my buddy because we worked in IT. And a lot of our job, sadly, was like, we worked at judicial branch of government for the state. And it's just like a whole bunch of people printing a whole bunch of shit. It's like they're printing fucking 50-page legal documents all the time. And I spent way too much time thinking about fucking printers. And he was the one who like set up the print server, set up all the drivers, did all that shit. And then anyway, just stupid shit just reminds you of people that you had no idea, like when you're when the times are good, you have no idea that when times are gonna go bad, you're gonna be like, wow, the dumbest shit reminds me of like them. And I felt that experience with like losing a friend, round tripping 8 figures of NFTs. Like it's a very similar experience. Like you go from, you have this idea of something
That's like gonna be around you, like even though you know it's not gonna last forever, you have it in your head at that time that it'll last forever.
Yeah. And like, you just take it for granted. It's like, oh, of course I have 8 figures in NFTs. Like, why wouldn't I? And it's like, well, 2 years ago you had negative net worth. Like, you went through it too. It's like,
Very much
you go
so.
through this delusion phase of like, this is the new normal. And then it ends and you're like kind of in denial at first. Like, no, it's going to come back. And then like 2 years later, you're like, maybe it's not going to come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's definitely made me emphasize a lot more with just like loss and grief because I haven't lost a close family member I haven't lost a close friend until then. So it was like the first time when I lost somebody was like, holy shit, like we just got ice cream last week. And like we're hanging out with his wife and kids and them. Like what happened?
Yeah, that's something that I fortunately have not had to experience yet. I haven't, like, all of my grandparents are still alive, not for much longer. That's something that like
You
will
notice when
definitely-
you go home.
Yeah, like, but that'll definitely change over the next couple of years. But I haven't, like, probably the saddest death that I've experienced in my life so far has been like my family dogs.
Yeah.
And so that's something where like I'm very thankful that I have not had to go through it, but I know that eventually it will happen and I'll have to
When we
deal with it and
lost
it'll
our
suck.
family dog, I was in college. I got a call from my stepmom and she told me I like didn't go to school that day. I like skipped all my classes. I just laid in bed. I was like looking at pictures I took of him 2 months ago before I left for summer break and went back to college. And it was just like, how could this happen? He was only 9.
Yeah.
And for him, it was just like cancer. It's like they found it too
Right.
late. Like, what are they going to do? It's a 9-year-old dog.
I think loss explains a lot about who we are as humans, right? Because inevitably, it's not just the loss of the person or the animal or the thing that we have. It's or the money. It's to me, I believe it's an internal feeling of how little time we have. It reminds us, right? You know, if you stop and think, it's like, how much time do I really have here? You
Not
know,
that much in the
and it's
grand
not
scheme of
that much
things.
grand scheme of things. And you're like, I'm worrying about a meme coin right now. You know, like,
Always.
right? And really, all we're doing is just trying to keep ourselves busy, not to think about the inevitable end that we have. You know, there's something scary about that. But with that said, there's also something beautiful in that we get to be here to even enjoy what we have. You know, like I used to constantly think about me dying. Like that was like a thing, which I still somewhat do a little bit. But now all I think about is my children dying. Like, are they safe? You know, like are they going to fall down the stairs? Are they going to choke? I can't leave them alone. Like, are they going to school? What's going to happen there? My daughter's going to sleepaway camp. Like, I don't know what's going to happen there. Is she going to be safe? Like, I'm not even, you know, I'm projecting it now onto something else, even though I know it's probably a feeling that has a lot to do with me. You know, I think like losing money in crypto. I mean, I think all three of us know that firsthand, right?
I've lost my fair share.
Yeah.
You kind of get numb to it.
yeah.
You have like a certain baseline that hopefully is safe that you're not tapping into, and then the swings with the other stuff is just like, I don't know. You get kind of numb. Like, do you get that way? Like
Yeah,
when you
like,
buy
I'm-
something and it just goes down.
I definitely
50%?
feel like I have PTSD, and I think we've talked about this before, but like I definitely have some kind of PTSD from crypto.
Like when I wake up right
Yeah.
now, the first thing I do is I open up my phone, I click the Dex Screener
Yeah.
app, and I go
Yeah.
to my watch
Yeah.
list. Like that's not healthy.
And it's not healthy. And
Refresh CoinGecko.
I was
Yeah,
not
yeah,
doing this
yeah.
3 months ago. Like
And-
this is a very bull market mindset.
And this is what I was saying to Andy before. This feels, see, like 2020, 21, 19, like when we had this last bull market, I didn't have this feeling as much as I did now when I had it in 2016, 17. Like sleeping with my computer under my pillow.
I'm literally waking
Right?
up sometimes
Yeah.
at 4 a.m. and I'm like, oh, I may as well farm my
Correct.
crops.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
a couple.
Woke up to pee. Time to harvest the crops.
Time to-
Let's go. Well, I had the same thing in 2020 DeFi farming.
Yeah.
And so that would be like you go to bed and you just put like
Way too
10%
much.
of your net worth into kimchi finance, and you're like, I literally don't know if it's like a smart financial decision for me to sleep tonight, but I know that this is what I need to be doing.
This weekend, I left my house. I made some trades Friday night. I fell asleep. And I woke up in the morning. I didn't check anything. And I went to my friend's house early in the morning. It was the Sabbath. So I was going to my friends and hang out. And I was there and I was like, I was drinking and I was all nervous. And they're like, you okay? I'm like, I haven't looked at a trade. In like 24 hours, I feel like I'm going to be broke by the time I
I
get
could
home.
be down hundreds of thousands of dollars.
When I walked home, it was about a mile from my friend's house to my house. It was about like 7:30 at night. And by the time I get home, like at 8 o'clock at night, I texted all of you guys. It was like, am I poor? Like I said, right?
It's over.
It was about a 40-minute walk. It was the longest walk of my life because I shipped so much money into this. and I'm like, what am I doing? My gut, like every emotion in 40 minutes went through my head until I got home, and I'm like, and then and I realized nothing changed. Hours ago, it was almost the exact same thing. Like one thing was down, and by the time I even looked, it went back up again. I'm like, okay, like we have this understanding of we have some sort of control, and the truth is we have none.
No, I'm watching the MFR chart on the 1 minute for 2 days straight.
It's just the same price.
I'm just like,
Every 30
change.
minutes, it's maybe it's up, then it's down.
And it goes
that's
up, it
fine.
goes down, it goes up. And meanwhile, like,
and then I go to sleep. I miss the dip I want to buy, and then I wake up, the dip's over, and it's like I spent all day waiting for that dip, and then it happened when I went to sleep.
correct. And you get crazy. It's like I was talking to Bat Soup, like he loves MF for a coin also, you know.
Oh yeah.
And he's one of my favorite people in the space. Shout out to
He's a
him.
good guy.
Right? And we're like, it's Easter. Let's pray for the charts. Like, it's so ridiculous the thoughts that go through your head when you're trading.
Oh yeah.
And so I can understand what you're going through because I think more people go through it. We just don't have these conversations because, and just going back to your friend, and I wish we did more because, you know, again, not to get too deep, but like, I'm sure there's every part of you that you probably are like, why didn't he just fucking call me? Why didn't he just text me?
Yeah.
I had no clue. I love him, and sometimes you could love somebody and not even know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And like if we don't talk about our emotional feelings and where we are mentally, then nobody could ever help us because we can't help ourselves.
Yeah. And I'm curious, Deeze, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it for everyone else. Do you think that those kind of experiences and stuff, one thing that you do really well is talk about your wins and your losses and when things are going well or bad? Was that like kind of a motivation to be more open about that kind of stuff, or is that something that comes naturally to you?
I think it came naturally to me. Before that happened, I was still like, you know, he took his life in August of 2022. And before that, I was still the same, like, hey, I win some, I lose some. Like, here's me losing $100,000 on, I don't know, like frenzies. Here's me losing $50,000 on a shit coin that was 2 hours old. I think people on Twitter, they just see a bunch of highlights, especially from a bunch of big accounts, and they just think like everybody's making money. It's like they see like Ansem tweet whiff 100 times on the way from 1 penny to $4.
They have no idea how much he owns. Or
No, like
I'm sure he's done well, but still.
I'm sure,
they have no
yeah,
idea.
And he has, and it doesn't. Yeah, I agree.
But there's no way to be like, oh, Ansem made $4 million. Like, here's his position and whatever. And for me, I've been very just open with my wallets, like probably to a detriment. But all the wallets I trade in are like wallets that I've owned NFTs in and trade them in. So if you know me, like you can go find all the wallets and see everything I do. And I'm not trying to like hide it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think like I tell people, I wrote that high signal information article about finding higher signal and avoiding noise. And like one of the things to do is like track wallets, like find whales who you think are smart, track their wallets and see what they're doing. Don't copy trade them blindly, but try to reverse engineer like, oh, well, why would they buy this here? And a lot of times maybe it's just like, Deeze is a stoned idiot and thought it was funny. Like maybe that's why he bought it. But showing people losses, I get a lot of comments of like, oh, this makes me feel better. Like that, you know, the cabal isn't just always winning. It's like people think like, oh, dude, you're an influencer. You must know all these people who know all these things and get all this alpha. And it's like, no, I get a lot of information from a lot of different places. And then I just try to take like some calculated bets on that information. But there's no like, you know, 25-person group chat that's like, hey, we're buying this thing and it's gonna fucking skyrocket. Get in now. It's not like that.
It's not. I mean, I laugh because like I have so many people recently with the meme coins
ever since
DMing
Bohm,
me. Like
ever since Bohm, people think like
correct.
you know everything.
Yeah,
and it's
like especially after Bohm. Like I got so many people DM me. I actually stopped looking at my Twitter DMs. Anybody who I know there, I'm just like, hit me up. And
Well, half your Twitter DMs now are just, hey, looking to interview you for Decrypt News or
right.
Rug Radio
Fake
News.
Rug Radio.
But it's even more than that because everybody kind of is like, for me, they're like, hey, just do me a favor. Like, and they're good people. Like, can you just like tell me when the cabal has a call? And I'm like, guys, there's really no cabal. Like I trying to explain to people, and I try to make that joke when I did the knot thing and all that. I'm like, there's really no cabal. Like you.
The nuts on your table.
Yeah,
thing.
the nuts on the table
knot
coin,
thing.
like which I gave out to all these people in the fake cabal I made. But to me, I find it fascinating because the mob mentality is that they believe that there's actually this thing. Now, I'm not saying that there's not insider trading and people get alpha, and there are sometimes groups that do things. 100% all that has to happen in this space. With that said, there's no cabal, right? Like in the cabal that they think there's none, and then they portray that onto some people, like you, and then that puts pressure on you to be like, guys.
And I'm so open. Like I tweeted like anime as soon as I bought it.
Yeah.
Like a $3 million market cap. It's like if you caught it when I bought it and tweeted about it,
You're still up.
You could have made 10x.
But you're still up.
I didn't sell it because I'm an idiot.
By the
but
way,
you could have sold it.
But you're still up now. Like if you bought anime when you
I'm up like 2x on it still.
So like I'm saying, like the truth is, it went to like the
But it's because I saw a tweet. Like people don't understand that like I'm on Twitter for
all the fucking time.
12 plus hours a day, and the sooner you see a tweet, the bigger edge you have. Like if you saw Satoshi's MFer tweet within the first 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, I saw it when it was a $15 million market cap, and I didn't buy it because I'm a fucking idiot.
I bought it at 14, but I was like a half hour late. And when you go look on the chart, it's like people bought $1 million plus MFer for under $1,000 because they presumably saw the tweet. And there's been a lot of things like that where like you see the tweet in the first minute or two, you just act on it because you know you have 30 plus minutes of like other people are going to see this, and then the For You page is going to feed it to them.
The pressure of not only the people online, but having to feel that you always have to be on Twitter has to be hard, right? Like I feel like
it's almost second nature now. Like it just feels like a part of me. Like
Like
it's
a
like
job?
a journal.
journal. Okay.
I try to say it's like a journal because a lot of times I like to go back and like Yield is a great example. Like, what the fuck was I thinking? And I'm like, oh, let me go see what I was tweeting. And I'm like, wow, I had this channel going up to 16, and it was like, oh, it's gonna break out to the upside. And it's like,
Yeah,
how did that
when
go?
$100 yield.
Yeah, like what's $25 yield look like? Pretty nice. But it's almost like a journal of like, here were my emotions at the time, and then here was my decision at the time, and if that was incorrect or correct, here's why.
Do you think whenever you retire, will you try to change the way you use Twitter? Well, I guess one, do you think you could ever anytime soon
No.
retire from like maybe not retire, but like actively take a step back from being as like day to day, I'm on Twitter for 12 hours a day checking deck
When we have a
screener.
kid.
Yeah.
It's
I was
like-
about to say that.
Wait, when we have a kid, I
gonna-
will be a lot more present in my day-to-day life. And-
You're gonna have to be.
yeah, 100%.
It's gonna force you. Like I just giving you fair warning. Like
Yeah,
you
I'll
see
know.
how chaotic my life is. I know you see it.
Yeah.
Most people don't.
You know, I was only a child till I was 14. And then my mom had a kid, and my dad and my stepmom had a kid. And then when I was 17, my mom had another kid. So I was like the surrogate dad for the two kids on my mom's side. So I kind of have that like watching kids, changing diaper, like that is all still pretty fresh.
You still close with them?
Yeah.
You said you found out your brother follows your account,
Yeah, I
right?
think I'm a bad influence on my siblings.
Oh no. Why?
Because my brother's like 16, 17, getting caught with vapes and shit that he shouldn't be doing.
Oh,
and
and
it's
he's
like,
following you doing it.
yeah, I don't. He's been, you know, friends with me on Discord since like 2019 when he was a kid, and like during the pandemic, I would like help tutor him on Discord, and then I'm sure he sees my stuff like.
I think that's just part of the different generation too, though. Like I have younger siblings, and I wasn't doing any of that stuff. Like I still don't really like smoking weed. Like when I was in high school, I literally didn't even try alcohol until I went to college.
Yeah.
And
Really?
yeah,
Were you Mormon?
no, but I
Close.
am. I grew up very religious. My dad's a pastor.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
So
Oh, this
my
is-
family.
Let's say this for
growing
your
up-
interview.
But so my family growing up was
Yeah.
very religious, and so like, but like my younger siblings who are they're now 20, they just turned 24 actually, which is another weird thing to think about. Makes me feel really fucking old. But like when they were
They're out
going,
of college.
going through high school and stuff, my parents are like, they're demon children. They're going out and partying and getting drunk. And I think that's like part of just like the internet makes kids grow up faster now.
It's
When you grow
very,
up, you're
very
listening
easy.
to Juice WRLD, you're listening to Lil Peep, you're listening to XXX. Everything is like world on drugs, pop a pill,
Yeah.
fucking.
And it's-
Meanwhile, like
and
the
he-
music we listened to when we were in high
Yeah.
school was so different.
But the accessibility, right, of
I mean, the
seeing
music
all
we
that is so
listened
easy.
to when we were in high
Yeah.
school was fucking Lil Wayne.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
No,
about
I
a
would-
fucking police officer.
I'm older than you guys. I was listening to Baby Got Back. So like, I'm just saying like, but you know, our Two Life Crew, which was at the time like considered crazy, and now you're like, well, that's not so bad.
Yeah.
But like the accessibility for children is kind of scary. Like, you know, not just like forget porn, which is like the most easy. Like back in the day, it wasn't that easy to watch porn. Now you can watch porn all the time. It gives you like
Rewire your brain.
Yeah, it rewires your brain. But like even like seeing things about drugs and whatnot, you know, I would say like I hear what you're saying that like you feel like you may be a bad influence on him, but at the same vein, you're probably also a really good influence because the vibes that you know, your whole thing is to be honest and truthful. So like you should look at it like both ways, you know.
Well, I hope they get the good with the bad,
Yeah.
and not just the bad.
So I think you have to explain that to them, you know? Like there's when you have kids, you guys will both see this, you know, they're like computers. So they download from you everything. You know, I'll put a picture up here. My daughter dressed up as I dressed up as my daughter. I put on my
For
wife's
Halloween?
dress. No, just for the fuck of it one day. And then my daughter dressed up as me and we were being goofy and like, you know, I was looking at her and I sat down with my wife after and she's like, she said she's so much like you know? And like, that's because of the, you know, the goofiness and craziness I've given her. Now I get scared because I'm also a chaotic mess, emotional wreck and like out of my mind. So like, I'm always like, I'm afraid that she's going to have that part of it also, but that's part of downloading information and then kind of siphoning through it until you feel like what fits you better. So like, you know, I think it's, you know, it's interesting that that he follows you. I guess the question is like, does he DM you or talk to you on the phone about the things that are going on to ask you?
No,
Right.
no. And I think that's a lot of the family members who follow me. Like my father-in-law follows me and he's been following me for like multiple years. And it's kind of this like, you know, taking good care of his daughter, and at every family event, you know, I'm very present and there, but then I'm this character online that's like a little different. And that always feels a little weird because like you were talking about anonymity and trying to, you know, keep some privacy, but then when you're like family members follow you and you're very open and you're like, yeah, I just might have lost almost like $500,000 on some yield farming Ponzi. And like, yeah, then I made like 250 grand off this pre-sale. And then like, I don't want them to get this idea that I don't even know. Like I get in my head about like, do they think I don't respect them or money or like,
I feel like it's easier. Like I just don't really talk about the money side of crypto stuff. Like
Yeah.
even with my family, not that I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, but I get that. I understand where you're coming from of just like, they know that I've done well for myself and that like crypto has generally been a net positive money wise in my life, but I don't need to explain to them when they're like, oh, how are things going lately? Just, oh, you know, crypto's crazy, man. It's good.
That's what I do,
Agreed.
but then I know they look at my Twitter, so it's different. It's like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will
'cause
at an
they also
event
can see
never
that.
say
I'm really scared about a lot of people who I don't find on my Twitter. Now I don't really talk. That's why I don't talk much about my losses and gains on my Twitter, because like I don't want to be like, yeah, I was up like yesterday. I was up. You know, we were up like on anime. I was up like $85,000 like in 20 minutes. It was so stupid. And I'm like talking with people, and I'm like, all right, I should sell this. And I was busy and I couldn't.
Sobi and got Sobi to sell, but none of us sold.
And then Sobi sold. None of us sold. We're because we're idiots.
we literally were like,
But how do you even explain that to somebody? Like, yeah, I made your salary in 20 minutes and then lost it 10 minutes later.
Yeah, because I was greedy.
Because I was an
I thought
idiot.
maybe
I
I
was
could make
greedy.
2 of your
But
salary.
I
I
made
could
sure.
double it.
But I made sure my good friend made $150,000. So like, what are you retarded? Oh wait, I can't say that word. Sorry. Are you an idiot?
But
Yes,
I am an idiot.
I am an idiot. Like it doesn't even make sense. Like
That's the only reason I do good at this is because I'm an
exactly,
idiot.
and then by the way, it's true. Like you know, the losses and the gains that you put together, if you're really good at it, you end up being in net positive, you're fine. Like overall, I'm good. But like to go through those emotional swings, and you and I have gone through it. I mean, I text these like, you know, I don't know, not, a few people, you know, like every other day. I'm like, just FYI, don't text me today because I want you to know that I just quit crypto.
Yeah, Benny quits crypto more than anybody I know.
I'm out. And they're like, no, you're not. I'm like, no, this time it's for real. Then like an hour later, you're like, yo, I just put in $150,000 into yield farming, Bowden, and Tremp. Just an hour later.
I'm actually on Bowden beta now. I'm in Hunt Bowden.
It's an oscillation. I don't want people to think like, it sounds stupid, but you almost have to disrespect money a little bit to make a bunch of it. Like,
yes,
you don't
at least
want
in this field.
in this world, what we're in, 100%.
like people are like, well, how did you know to put money into that? And I'm like, well, I thought I was going to light it on fire. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I was completely okay with losing all of it. And they're like, how? And I'm like, well, because it's a bet and most bets don't work out. And the ones that do make you so much that you come out on top.
It's like Bowden. When I started buying Bowden, it was because I don't want to say which trader that we both know that we follow sometimes.
He's been tweeting a lot about Bowden. His pockets are exploding.
He mentioned it, and I'm like,
not Bob Laxton.
I was like, okay. I was like, listen, he's usually pretty good about this stuff. Copy trading, I like doing that also, like Dee said. My mindset was also, so I told my friend, he's like, so what are you doing? I told him my friend likes it, and I was like, look, here's my thought process. Every time Biden falls, the price is going to go up in the coin. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And he's like, wait, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm very serious about that. Yeah. Now, I don't know.
I truly believe it.
I truly believe that if he's on his bike and falls again, we're going to go up 30%. And it's going to be glorious. And he's like, that's single dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. But like, to me, it makes perfect sense. 100%. And when I say it to Dee's like, yeah, if the guy falls on national TV, we're going to be millionaires.
People are talking about like, well, if they die, like, is that bad? And I'm like, no, that's the exit pump.
That's the exit pump.
If either of the candidates die, you're going to get the exit of a lifetime.
And that's why the meme coins are better than the prediction markets.
100%. And here's the best part. You could own both of them. Whichever one loses, that coin's going to zero. So which one are you making your tax-less harvest? But the other one will go up. I mean, none of this makes sense. And like, I feel like you've seen that.
We're
like
gambling on attention.
So, yeah, I like that line that he's been pushing a lot. How do you, getting back to Dee's a bit, your like kind of entry to crypto stuff was a lot of like Uniswap, shitcoin stuff.
I would say my like proper entry.
Yeah, like once you started taking it a little bit more seriously.
The cycle before
but you were
that,
used to being online because of gaming, right? That was a big thing.
Dude,
right?
I would just spend 12 plus hours a day playing RuneScape. And then I would spend all day in Discord. Like it was a very natural progression of spending 12 hours in an online world and in a chat room. And now, this is crypto. This is like, there's a bunch of Discords, not just one. And instead of logging into RuneScape, I'm logging into Twitter and Telegram, and it's just very much like the Grand Exchange. Here's some information going around my head. Oh, maybe this item is going to go up on this patch. Like maybe there's going to be a rework of this thing. It's like very similar with NFTs or tokens. You're like, oh, maybe this news is going to come out. Like, oh, maybe the shit they've been building, maybe they actually built something and they might announce it.
That's doubtful.
It's maybe the points that we've been farming for 9 months are going to...
Pac-Man, please. I need the blast gold.
But he did well in that game.
Maybe like margin 5 points, Camino
those
points.
are never gonna happen.
All those Solana points that...
I've given up on those.
At some point, they're going to be worth something.
Yeah.
At some point.
How do you... Like, how easy was your transition kind of from... You were doing shitcoin stuff, and then you spent most of your time in the NFT world... And then like as crypto has gone back to like shitcoining and NFTs have really fallen off and kind of, you know, like volume has really gone crazily down. Like how has that transition been for you? Was it something you had to like kind of rewire your brain a little bit? I feel like you were pretty quick to be like, all right, fuck it, back to memes.
It's a good point. Rotated very quickly.
I feel like I'm like a liquidity and a volume maxi. So you cannot dispute that NFTs are pretty dead. Like by any volume, price metrics, volume's down drastically. Prices are down a lot. It's pretty dead. Uniswap Summer was how I made the ETH to buy punks in the first place. And it was really just like 5 or 6 good plays, and then I didn't lose as much on the 50 bad plays, so that it made up for it. And it's the same now, where it's like I'll hit 3 or 4 or 5 good plays, and then there's like 25 plus plays that just didn't work out. I think the hardest part for me is sizing. Like in NFTs, a lot of my big wins were taking small bets on things where I didn't really care if I made money or not. It was like buying like a bunch of squiggles. It's like it's like Snowfro, I'm gonna buy that. And I'm noticing with meme coins that like my big meme coin wins are similar. Like putting 0.4 ETH into higher and forgetting about it. Putting 10 Sol into Bohm because like I think Dark Farms is funny. Some of my biggest meme coin wins, and when I size up and like try to hammer something, it normally doesn't work out. Like it's this weird.
I have the same experience for the most part.
Yeah, it's this weird dichotomy of like when I'm not trying too hard to make a bunch of money and I'm just doing something that's a small risk for the culture. It's like those plays generally do pretty well, and then when I size up because I'm like, oh, this is like mathematically a banger, I just get destroyed.
Right.
So it's been hard for me to like position size accordingly because I'm taking too high variance on the positions. Like some sizing is like $5,000 and then some sizing is like 500 grand, and like it can't like, did I have 100x conviction in the thing that I put the 500 grand? No, it might have been like 3 or 5x conviction.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me. Like with NFTs, it was just a lot of I'm interacting with the communities, I'm buying things I like, I'm holding it. Punks were different because I was trading them pretty frequently, but a lot of the other stuff was just like, I'm just going to buy it and hold it. The meme coins are like NFT cycles on steroids. It's like everything is like toads. Like it comes out, it rips, you get one pump to sell it, and then it's over. So it takes a little bit of readjusting in my mind to be like, we need to sell these rips. Like when MFR was 300, or when Anime is 30, or when higher is 100, it's like, this might be the only pump.
Yeah.
And NFTs were a lot easier for me to hold. Like we talked about degen and fumbling degen. If that was an NFT, I have all my Farcaster OG, my Gaia, like all my Farcaster NFTs. If degen was in an NFT, I'd still have it 100%. But since it was a liquid token, like I lose my conviction in the liquid token so much faster. Like I might smoke a dab and then my conviction on a liquid token just 180'd, where like with NFTs that didn't really happen. So it's hard for me to like, if I size up big, my conviction is on like a coin flip.
Yeah.
And it's not as healthy. Whereas like when I size up small and it's something for culture, like I'll just hold it forever. And then somehow those end up being my biggest wins.
Yeah, well, I think like something that I've had to get better at with meme coins, because I mean I'm pretty terrible at trading them, to be honest. No one should really ever take my advice on it. Is like with them, a lot of the wins that you get are 5-figure wins, and it's compounding. You know, if you're buying that small stuff, you're not like, maybe you're gonna get really really lucky and buy the thing that you put 10 Solana into and turn it into, you know, $500,000. But like most of the time, you have to be happy with that. You know, I'm going to put 10 Solana into this thing and maybe it'll be 50 grand.
Dude, I've round tripped so many bags over the last month alone where I put in less than 2 grand and it went up to 25 to 50. And then I didn't sell it because
what if it's the next
what if
whiff?
this is whiff?
Yeah.
And then it goes down 90% and then I sell it for a gain still, but like not that much. Like Nick, perfect example. Nick tweeted about Nick at like a 400K market cap. I saw the tweet within 2 minutes of him tweeting it. I went to fucking Bird Eye and just bought, I don't even remember, like 5 Sol worth or something. Fast forward 2 days, he's on Portnoy and that 5 Sol or whatever was worth $50,000. And I didn't sell it because it's like, well, Choose Rich is the new Agme. Like, this is going to flip stuff. And then it's like, oh, well, in hindsight, going on Dave Portnoy's show.
It's the top.
And getting millions of impressions with, like...
Yeah, it's impossible to... I mean, you're talking to the...
Like MFR?
Yeah.
Just MFR is the great one the other day.
Yeah.
We saw it early. I put in a couple ETH.
Yeah.
It went up 10x. And then I was like, I should put in more money.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, didn't have the idea when I saw it at 14 that I need to sell a quarter of my BOEM and roll it into MFR. But once MFR got to over 100, then my brain was like, this is going to go to 500.
This is going to $1 billion. This
Yeah.
is the BOEM of base.
Like, this is the next thing.
You make up things in your head, again, that are not reality. In your
But it makes
mind,
sense.
it makes sense.
It makes
Yeah. Something that I've tried to be better at lately is like if a coin has gone up a ton, being like, I'm okay to fully miss this. If it retraces 50%, 60%, and I don't want to buy it anymore, then it probably was a good thing I didn't buy it. But like I should like expect that will happen because it is a meme coin. And once it does that, then I can evaluate, do I actually want to buy this thing? And if not, and I miss it, I missed it. And that's like what's happened with Degen over the last couple of weeks. Where I was like, I'm just not going to buy this thing because at some point it has to go down. And when it does,
it's a new paradigm,
Yeah.
bro.
Which usually means that you should probably buy it because it's not going down.
Yeah.
Right. Like these are the things that all of a sudden you say in your head. I mean, look, I trade like an idiot. Deeze knows this. Like
I remember
I just buy things.
getting you to
I don't even
sell
think
your-
about it,
Getting
you know?
you to sell
And I never sell.
your
Yeah.
BOEM
Yeah.
felt better
Yeah.
than selling any of mine.
I made and I do size up. So I buy a little bit and then it starts moving up and everybody's talking about it. I'm like, bro, and I just throw everything into it. And usually it doesn't work. And then every once in a while, those conviction plays work. Like in BOEM, it worked very well. And I was sitting there,
forcing you to sell.
and
I feel like I'm like, Benny, you need to sell.
because I never sell.
No. And it's like Benny will ride the roller coaster up and then down. And it's like, Benny, you're up 10x on size. Like, it's not like you're up 10x on $500.
Right.
Like, you're up 10x on size.
But I usually take that and I buy. And what I'll do is I always make the same mistake. I'll sell some to buy art.
Start buying it down.
Because I'll buy art, and then I'll come back and I'll go down. I'll buy more. So like, but it's all psychology because like you said, it's like I'm like, well, BOEM's obviously 53% of it's bought by Binance now, which in theory, by the way, I do think BOEM will go back up at some point
been
pretty
having a
high.
good day today.
It's
Correct.
been having a hell
and
of
I
a day.
and I think like anime, like yeah, like I think anime actually might be a decent coin. Will we see it at 250 million? No, but next time it goes up to 30, 50 million, I'm like, okay, now I learned my mistake. It might not, truthfully, but
Maybe it just stays at 6.
it stays at 6 and like
Maybe
whatever. I made
Azuki
it
is the real
2x
anime.
and I'll be like, fine, okay, I made it 2x, and after a while I'll sell it. But these, you know, I see you and I watch you and you're like. It's like, you know, we talk a lot about this stuff, but it's all psychology. It's all like you just said, it's the BOEM on soul.
Dude, I'm looking at the 1 minute chart
Yeah.
on coins that are 4 hours old. Like,
We're doing lines, TA,
With
on
coins
three,
that
on 3 hour, on like
we
a
got
coin
it.
that just came out.
that
Yeah.
has like 15 Solana of liquidity.
Yeah, like, oh, don't you see it's in the zone as it moves up? You know, like Farouk setting these like charts, and I'm like, and we're all like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you know, it's the dumbest
it's-
thing in the world
it's
because there's no
ascending.
TA, you
it's
know?
ascending. Just buy
totally
the bottom of the channel. It's going to go to the top again.
And
So speaking of the art side of things, like how have you been like thinking about and kind of managing, you know, continuing to buy art and do all that? Because obviously that's something that like still is very important to you and was a big part of your crypto experience over the last 4 years. Like how has your relationship with that stuff changed, or is it the same? Like how do you think about it?
It's definitely changed a lot. I think early on, like 2021 summer when I bought a lot, it was in hindsight, I was doing it almost more for the social capital I was gaining. There was like this feedback loop of make money off NFT project, roll profit into art, get a massive amount of dopamine, bunch of new followers, bunch of social capital, and then do it again with the next NFT project, roll it back into art. At some point in the bear market, you kind of rewire your brain. And then some point once Escher and Tesla closed down, it was like, okay, like what am I doing here with all this art? Talked to Benny about this a lot, where it was like, I'm collecting way too much and like I don't love everything I have and I need to make a change.
Yeah.
So in the last 9 months, I've probably one-on-ones, I've probably bought less than 10. Editions, I've probably bought, I don't know. I've still bought editions, but like
Just mint them when they're cheap on base or whatever.
Yeah,
and-
it's more
Click
the Click
Create.
Create editions.
They've
yeah,
done
I
a
get all
really
the
good
Click
job.
Create editions,
Shout out to NorCal
and they're good.
Clutch.
Like
Yeah.
it's like Snowfro's curating it, like Grant Yoon's curating it. Like it's all the people I like picking artists I like, and they're so cheap that like it doesn't really, you don't really think about it. But I'm a lot more intentional now. Like the most recent one I bought was a Botto, and it was because the output from the Botto looked a lot like art I make for the pod. Like it honestly, to me, when I saw it, I was like, holy shit, that looks like something like I would have made. So that one was kind of cool because I think Botto is.
But you calculated that by a lot. I think
Everybody was in France.
You should speak about that because
So-
I think it was a really, I thought your process of going through that, and like I buy way too much art. I will always buy too much art. I'm an idiot. But I felt the way you talked about how you've been following it for a while, you listened to Ben.
Yeah.
And the process, I think that's important because that's a good way for people to understand a little
I
bit
had
better.
been
now.
watching Botto for like 6+ months, and I hadn't seen a piece that was a piece I liked at a price I liked. And the one that came out was during NFT Paris. And it felt like, because the way the Botto works, every auction, there's an auction a week, and it always ends on Friday. And I think all the people who really care about Botto were in Paris. And normally, like, Bottos are going between 8 and 15 right now.
Yeah.
I got this one for under 5.
Yeah. That was a good one too.
And I was sitting there like, I'll bid up to 6. And if I get it under 6, I'm stoked. If it goes over 6, whatever, I tried. So it was a lot of like, hey, I'm stocking this output every week. Okay, this is one I like. Okay, it's also during a time where people... Is that Larry? It's also during a
Lola's
time...
having a little bathroom break.
It's also a time where people are distracted. Like, I'm really big on looking at the attention landscape on Twitter and just like the space in general and thinking, okay, right now a lot of the attention is here, but in 2 weeks or 6 months, like what might get more attention than it has right now? And then trying to rotate some capital from like, here's the high attention stuff right now into like lower attention stuff that I think will get more attention in the future.
And I
like
think-
Sam Spratt's
Correct.
Skulls.
I was about to
and-
ask. Like, I know that meant a lot to you. Like, like you sold a Fidenza for it, which is like
Fidenza
And
and a
all
ringer.
seriousness, I know. Like we talk. Like, I talked you into it, but for real, like I know that you really felt strongly about getting the Sam Spratt skull. You thought about it for a while.
Yeah.
You had sold that Fidenza. So I think your conviction is getting stronger in the art that you're buying, right?
Yeah, I'm just buying a lot less. It's like you know it when you see it and don't force it. Like 2021, I was just like, the social capital was worth spending the financial
Right.
capital. And then you get to a point where you realize, like, was I buying the social capital for me? Or was I buying it for like my idea of what it makes the company look like or something? Like there was this weird like, do I really intrinsically care and want this? Or am I buying this to make my public persona look better, to make, anything I do look better?
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea of people buying. And I was listening to your last podcast with
Spencer?
Thank you, who I think is actually
That was a fun one.
that was a great episode. He's also an incredible investor, a really smart person that people should get to know. But I thought his bit on, buying things for social capital was super interesting.
Oh yeah, we're talking
And
about Machi.
yeah, and when I was doing the Dick Butts thing with the anonymous person who bought it, it was like Dick Butts is awesome, so we're gonna buy the project to, together, and he put up most of the capital. I was just a small part of it, but there was that part of it. It's like, yeah, we want to have like that sort of social environment that we could be a part of, and Dick Butts is that great part of it, And
But
like,
you can be a part of the Dick Butts environment without owning
Correct.
hundreds of thousands. of dollars of Dick
100%.
Butts. That's the thing about the space is like you can enjoy art.
Yes.
You don't need to own it.
Yeah.
And it took me a really long time to realize like over the last 2 weeks, I've floored 2 Meridians, 2 Subscapes, a bunch of other art blocks because I realized like, why am I holding my 28th favorite art block? Like I have my Squiggles I like. I have my Ohio State Fidenza. I have a Harvest, some Prosceniums and Tricros I really like in Chimeras. Other than that, I don't really think about the others. Like I have the Meridian book, and for less than $1,000, I have every Meridian in one of the nicest physical books in my whole collection. It's like, do I need the NFT that's worth $14,000 still when I have the book that has all the NFTs in it and I can just pick it up and appreciate it whenever? Like, I probably don't need. So that's how I've been looking at a lot of my art. It's not the one-on-ones as much as it is the old art blocks of like, have I thought about this in 6 months? Like, if I haven't, like, I probably don't care that much about it. And maybe that liquidity is better used elsewhere.
And it really depends on each person. Like, look, I like coins. I don't sell my art either.
Benny's coin collection's like an art collection.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
It's his journal.
But it's kind of like my journal and my journey. But and it's gotten me into probably mistakes I've made. But I think you and I talking more and more about art, we've both talked about this, how there, not just a social capital, but there was like, there's something really special back in the time when you were like, hey, I could buy this art from somebody and it's really helping their career, and then became friends with them. And there was that whole like nice, and I hope that continues.
Yes.
But there was also like, we could have done it a little better, right?
Yeah, we could have been more thoughtful.
We could have been more thoughtful, the pricing, how we were doing it. And instead we kind of all got caught up, you know, and it's funny because the meme coins, DeFi, ICOs that we went through back in the day when I was buying Bitcoin, like when it got crazy, like that first time, you know, this is like a long time ago, all that same feeling is the same rotation. It's just like a different thing.
Different
and it'll
medium
happen
or
again
different
also
outlet.
with something else, you know?
That's why. What are your guys' feelings on people who are like, this might be the last cycle kind of stuff? What are your thoughts?
I'm scared a little bit. Like, to me, Bob Lucas, and I'm very biased. He's a good friend, and I respect him greatly. I think he's super smart. You know, what he tells me about the left translated, whatever he calls it, you know, it's scary, you know, because I don't think he's, you know, he doesn't say again, it's not that it's the last cycle, it's the last 4-year cycle. We could be in a much more entrenched, you know, the idea is you have the biggest bull ever, so you're going to have the biggest bear ever, right? That makes a lot of sense because you have the yin and yang. You know, it's kind of scary, you know, like to some extent. It's uncertain. Even Bob would tell you, he's like, I think it could happen, but that doesn't mean it will. But I do agree with him in the sense that there's no real intrinsic value yet. And don't anybody hate me on this. I think there will be with blockchain, right? We're using it really to trade meme coins and make money. The only thing that actually has any intrinsic value to it on chain is actually art, right? But otherwise, like, we're not really doing, like, we're talking about real estate, we're talking about other types of assets and things like that. Now the banking industry is getting involved, so it's getting there. But there is like a feeling of like, hey, there might be 10 more years until we're actually using this technology every day. But, you know, things change. Look, something like Parallel comes along, or Zai, right? What Sobe's building with gaming, and also gaming becomes a big deal, and that's how you get past that, right? So I think there's a possibility, but he's not wrong in that we need to innovate more. If we're not going to innovate, I could see us really kind of going flat for a while.
Is there intrinsic value in Bitcoin because of the energy that's used to produce it, though? Or no?
I think a little bit, but the truth is, it's like, it really is just like, to me, it's like art, right? If somebody feels like it has value, they're going to pay you for it. So to me, younger generations, like, hey, I don't care as much about physical things. I care more about digital stuff. You and I talk about this all the time, like about gaming. You and I, like, we were both big gamers. Like, you were telling me like how you were selling all these things in that game you used to have. Like, they weren't
RuneScape.
Right, in RuneScape. They weren't even NFTs at the time, and you were able to buy and sell them, right? So like that idea, like it kind of works. So like, but inevitably, like right now, what we're mostly doing is really based off of like what people want to pay for it. And and again, that doesn't mean it won't change, and I think it will. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. But art, to me, what's special about it, it's like this idea of being provenance on chain actually has use to it.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like one of the few things that actually
Yeah.
takes something from the traditional world and is like a step level improvement. Whereas a lot of other stuff that people do
Might not even be an improvement.
Right.
It might.
Oh, wow, we have a special guest.
Do you want to come on the podcast?
Do you want to say hi?
It-
You look
Shout
beautiful.
out to RKO Tax for
Yeah.
saving us time because I would be at my computer chair right now.
She's doing. Allie's inside doing your taxes right
Probably.
now.
She actually probably is.
She's
doing
looking
it.
at the 1,500 things I've done on Blast, and
Oh,
she's
forget
just
it.
shaking her head.
1,500. That's a lot less than I thought it would be.
Well, it's only been 2 weeks.
Well, in 2000, you'll get this. In 2017, I had to do my 2000. When did they stop Like Kind? 2018. When they stopped Like Kind in 2018, right?
With Trump, yeah.
Yeah. So they stopped Like Kind, and I had to go through all my trades. I had like 20 million trades. It was like so ridiculous. I had a tax attorney. I had like, it took me years to get past this because I was like, I don't know. It was crazy. It was like, I didn't even realize I traded that much. And I guarantee people are going to look back now at this meme coin thing. They're like, what the
I'm looking
hell
back
did I
at
do?
my own meme coins, and I'm like, I think I'm up. Like, I think I need cash aside because, yeah.
Well, fortunately, I'm still working through my losses from 2022. So I am up on the year, but I was down so much in capital losses that at least as of right now, I think I would still own no money.
Nice.
Yeah.
I had
I'm very much the
overpaid
same
so
way.
much in 2021.
Yeah.
Another shout out to Allie. She went back, fixed all my stuff, and was like, "Hey, you have like money you overpaid them. You can just pay them out of that." It's like, oh. So I haven't actually paid more into taxes in 2 years, but this year looks like I'll definitely be back in the. It's a good problem.
I never have any issue paying my taxes because I'm like, if I'm paying taxes, that means I made money and I'm very happy. So like,
It's the worst part about making money, though, for sure. Like,
No,
you don't really realize it, and then you make a bunch of money.
Look at Larry right now.
I kind of wish that's why they had a stable coin. I know people are going to kill me for this one, but I kind of wish they did have a stable coin in the US where we had an offboard too, because then they would just take our taxes out for us at the time. And then I wouldn't have to worry about it. I'd be like, okay, thank you very much. Let's move on. But I think paying your taxes is important. Can we get to some other questions about these?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Miss Deeze.
Yeah.
Mrs. Deeze. She is a wonderful, wonderful human being who puts up with a lot.
Way
I'm
too
sure
much.
that the two of us can relate very much. I definitely can relate. I don't know how my
Shout out
wife.
to Allie who was letting us record this
Yes,
podcast.
exactly. In her
Our
den.
apartment.
Shout out to my wife who's picking up and driving the kids like the rest of this week before I go to Venice. I don't know how she hasn't divorced me, but Allie, I'm sorry, Mrs. Deeze. I know that sometimes you're like, I got to take some time off to go build our shelves. I know there's certain things like it was important for you to get a new house with her. Like, how is that process of doing all this and being with her? It's got to be an interesting journey.
It makes this journey easier when you're in a really stable long-term relationship where you don't really have any insecurities or worries. It allows you to take risks in other aspects of your life, knowing you have this like really solid foundation. Like, if all of our crypto went to zero, it would suck, but like it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Like, we would figure it out. Like, we would go get jobs again and like we would make it work. Like, we went through a bunch of shit. We never thought we would have any money. Like, we just thought we were gonna work for the state for 30 years and do whatever in our free time. And then once all this stuff happened, it was like, wow, I don't need to worry about finding a spouse that I trust with money. It's like we came from nothing together. Like, we built this together, and it just gave me this really strong foundation. I think that some people might not realize is a thing. Like, when you're in that stable relationship, everything can go to shit, but you have each other, and it's not really that bad. It's like, worst case scenario, we like to hang out and eat cheap food and watch TV together. It's like, I could do that for the rest of my life and not really worry about it. And it's not like, she has really low expectations. Like, we met when I was 20 and she was 20 online playing League of Legends because a mutual friend of ours invited us to a game to play together. And the next thing you know, like 2 months later, we're dating long distance. And then 3 months later, she flew out to Ohio. We met. And then since then, it's like...
So you guys were talking online, playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't met in person for how long? About a year, you said?
No, like 5 months. Like,
For
we
5
met
months.
online at the end of June, beginning of July. And she flew out in December.
When you were online, what about the conversations ended up being a relationship?
So a lot of my interactions with women online is that like I didn't really want to like hang out with them. Like I would meet them and it wouldn't be exciting to just like play a game and chill and talk to them. Jess was like hanging out with a really good friend. Like it was just talk about everything, like favorite shows, and then talk about family, and then talk about things we're gonna do in the future, talk about whatever's going on today. And it was just like we could talk about everything, and it was super natural, super unforced, and it was like I really enjoyed her company. And I hadn't been around like most other women I was around, I felt like I wasn't being myself for some reason, whether it was in my head, like I didn't want them to perceive me as a certain way, so I would do things differently. Whereas around Jess, I was just always myself. There was no like, I don't know. Like I feel like back in college, like guy friends would be like, yeah, man, if she texts you back in 5 minutes, like don't text her back for like 30 minutes, like all this shit. And like with Jess, it was just like, I got a text, message her back. Like it was just, there was no like game. It was just
someone you wanted to spend time with. You were happy to spend time with.
Yeah, and we played like League of Legends, but we also played like Saints Row and like a bunch of co-op games. And it was just fun to like hang out and bullshit and like play games together. And then when we met in person, it was like, oh, there's a lot of the chemistry we had online as friends like came together physically, and it was like, okay.
Were you afraid the first time you met her that she was going to, because like Jess happens to be this beautiful blonde tall woman, were you afraid that she was going to be like a 5-foot man?
No. So this was back before AI. I feel like AI is kind of scary now. But like back then, like we would just Skype video call, and it was like I could very clearly.
Oh, so you had seen her?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Like
okay.
We would Skype video call, and like I would see her and Albus, the cat, and like she'd see me in my shitty apartment. But there was no like, oh, this could be an AI filter.
The cat's name is Albus, like
yeah.
Dumbledore.
Yeah, like Dumbledore. So it was very like now I would be paranoid that if we were on video, it's like filtered or something. Whereas like back then there was Snapchat filters, but there was no one was really doing that.
Right.
And I think just meeting somebody when you're both at rock bottom, like I was in college when I met her, I just failed out basically. I lost all my financial aid, was taking on double the student loans to go back to school. And it was like kind of like rock bottom. And then she was like working midnights at Dunkin' Donuts in Arizona, going to online school for her college degree. So it was like we met at kind of a lower point in our lives. And I don't know, I couldn't imagine, like you get to a point where you kind of feel like one unit. Like I'm sure for Andy, it's like hard to imagine like what would life be like without Allie? It's like,
It'd be very weird.
She
goes away for one night and I'm like, what do I do?
Save me.
I rely on her for so many different little things, and you don't realize it until I come here for a week or she goes and visits her family for a week. It's like, oh, like that just didn't get done. Like I didn't eat for 6 hours. Like, oh, it's because I normally eat with her in the morning together, and then I woke up and she wasn't there, so I just went on my computer, and now it's 4:00 and I haven't showered or eaten, and you're like, oh, okay.
That literally, funny enough, happened to me like just the other day, where Allie went out and did some stuff, and I had some stuff I was gonna do, and then she came back and I was like, sorry, I have not left my computer since you left.
Yep.
One time, Amira went to work. This is a long time ago. I've been with Amira 20 something years now, and we had been married for like a couple years, and I wasn't working at the time. It was pre-crypto, and she had a job, and she's like, she left in the morning. She kissed me goodbye. She comes home at 5:00.
Yeah.
Lights are off. She's like, did you wake up today? And I was like, no. She's like, did you set an alarm? Like, I should set an alarm. Like, it was so foreign to me, you know? And like, you know, she's like, okay, you need to start setting an alarm, you know? And now that I have kids, that feeling that you both have, you'll see like as you're with somebody longer, it's probably that feeling that you're having of like, you could function without them, but you function together better.
Yes.
That feeling gets a lot stronger the
Well, it's
longer
like
you're married, and
relationships
with
compound.
100%.
People don't realize this enough. Like when you have a 10-year relationship versus a 2-year relationship, that 10-year relationship is probably at least 5 times stronger, if not more, than the 2-year relationship.
It's like farming seeds.
I don't know. My
We
relationship,
Allie and I have so much locked yield of relationship.
millions of lock yields.
So much lock yield. It's so
How do you
true.
unlock it?
I have to take her to the Sage and purchase her handbags. Is how I unlock the yield.
We go once a week. We do the unlock. It's the bank account unlock.
Our wives must think we're out of our minds. I mean, can you imagine for a second if you were just in the mind of our wives, how they would probably think how crazy we are?
Well, and like Allie didn't sign up for this. When we
Right.
started dating, I was a software engineer in college. I had nothing to do with any of
That's I didn't. So Jess doesn't like weed.
you had
I didn't
actually
smoke weed.
yeah. Right.
Before we met, I wasn't smoking weed.
Yeah.
Like, she's always been like. I think when I went and visited her family, like talked to her dad and her mom, like a year or two into our relationship, and was like, "Hey, I'm like not a fuck boy on the internet. Like I'm a serious person. Like want to be with your daughter for a long time. I'm not just like trying to waste people's time here." That felt like the time where, you know, no matter what happened, like I had her parents' respect. Like I could have worked that old job forever and like in my head been broke, but everything was good. Like parents signed off, everybody was happy. Her parents really, I think, just they know that I'm genuine. Like they know that everything I've told them I'm ever gonna do, I've done it. I've not like lied to them or misled them in any way. And
you're taking care of their daughter.
yeah, and she's happy. Like she doesn't have to work a job that we both hate and resent, you know, 80% of your time awake.
Yeah.
And even if everything goes to shit and we had to go back and do that again, it's like we know we can do it. Like that's still a good life. Like it could be so much worse.
But let's not go there.
But we're not gonna go back there.
No, we don't want to go to zero. So I mean, it would be interesting. I always wonder if like one day, like 10 years from now, they did a documentary on Netflix with none of us, except all the creators, artists, and collectors.
None of us?
Just their spouses. That's it. You know, I met like is Mike Kriak, the guy who runs.
Yeah.
I met his partner
Who was that?
Mike Craniac?
from Consensus Mesh.
Okay.
Such a nice guy. Shout out. One of the best people in space. And I met his partner, and it was so interesting to me because I was talking to him and I had this great time. And he was like looking at us like we were the strangest people in the world. And then I'm like, this is exactly how my wife looks at it. You know, it's like all of our partners and spouses that we have, you know, I feel like they probably have a better perspective. Like if we actually ask them, hey, do you think I should trade or sell here? And they'll be like, what do you mean? You're up $200,000. Of course you should sell, you idiot. If we actually asked them, they would have better advice, but we
They
don't.
have really good vibe checks on people.
Yes, that's for sure.
Like when you
100%.
take them around events and you ask them, oh, what did you think of? Like they're right more than we are.
I see that very much like I think Sam and Rachel have this amazing partnership because Rachel is like a sprat. Like she's like a hawk on that. You know, she's like,
That person's
she's
a no-go.
She's just good at vibes, so good at them, you know. And it's definitely because she's in our community, obviously now, but she's also like kind of outside our community. So it's interesting. So I think like, you know, and I know like Jess, when she came over to the house, we had this best time. And you know, when Amira said to me, she's like, is everybody who's in crypto, is their spouses just normal like me? You know, like, and now she's friends with a lot of them.
Has
so.
to make them feel better. It's like, oh, like,
Yeah.
you know, Allie, Jess, Amira, they look at us like those are idiots, but those are our idiots. It's like,
Right.
Yeah.
they provide for us in their own way somehow, and
Yep.
like they have good camaraderie with the people they're around. But some of the stuff they do is just
Questionable.
So let's ask you this question. How about this? I got a good one for you, Deeze. Deeze 2024 is different than Deeze 2020, different than 2016, right? You've definitely, in a lot of ways, are on top of the market in many ways, from social media to collecting to making your money, all of that. What do you want to do next? Like, where do you want to go? Like, who do you want to be? Like, if you're able to go to 2028 right? Did I say that right? 2020, 28, whatever. And see and be who you are then. What does Deeze look like at that moment?
Honestly, I think it's basically what I'm at right now. I think this is, if I can make enough trading the markets that don't need to get a 9 to 5, like I don't want to build something. I don't want to say I don't want to build something because like the podcast is something, but I don't want to build like a company. Like I don't want to go from 0 to 1 on a brand new primitive or thing in the space. Like I like this is more like of we're documenting history and we're having conversations with people who I think are going to be looked back in 5+ years is like, oh, holy shit. And this is our kind of like stamp on history. We get to have all these conversations, share them, and then people can go back in 5, 10, whatever years. Like I don't think YouTube's going anywhere. I don't think Spotify and Apple Podcasts are going anywhere. So if I can figure out a way that this is self-sustainable, that to me is like
Just
the
keep
biggest
going,
win.
man.
Because I like the time that I have to be a DGen now, because last cycle I was much more worried about like, how does this impact my brand? How does this impact how other people perceive me? Now it's like I can tell everyone to fuck off. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
don't care how you perceive me.
it's our podcast. We're going to talk to the people we want to talk to, and we're going to share it every week. And I don't have anybody of like, I don't have in the back of my mind, well, like, I don't really want to go to this thing, but so-and-so from this venture capital thing is going to be there and they invested in our company. So it's probably good that I just go and like talk to them. It's like, now I can just be honest with myself. Like, does this give me joy? Do I want to go to this? If not, and same with tweeting. Like, I don't need to worry about, oh, is that a portfolio company of so-and-so? Like, maybe I shouldn't.
Maybe I shouldn't shit on them.
Now it's like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'll FUD my own bag to 0. I don't fucking friend tech. Like, I'm getting 30,000 friend tech points. I'll still be on the timeline. Like,
I'm
FUDing.
excited for our friend tech points.
I
by
am
the
too.
way.
I'm foaming at the mouth on whale market. Like, I'm like $4 a point.
Dude, I think it's going to be higher than that.
So I think I'm able to like be myself. So going into 2028 is like trying to continue what this is right now. I don't see myself like either joining a company early or founding a new company that's like going to change the space. Like that's not me.
So
Much more a observer / shit poster / pseudo historian / pseudo intellectual than I am like let's get in the like there's no idea that I have enough high conviction in that I'm just like, let's fucking build this. Like I don't wake up with the fire in my belly of like, we're gonna fucking change the world.
so when your child is 16 years old,
That's a long time from now.
a long time,
Could be 20+ years.
and all of a sudden they go on Twitter, and they're like, "Yo, what's going on with my dad?"
Dude, here's a funny story.
Yeah.
My sister is in 8th grade. No, she's a sophomore in college. An 8th grader from another school asked her if she was Deeze's brother
No way. How'd she get that?
in Western PA.
How did he
Yeah.
dox her? Dox you, I should say.
I mean, the last name's the same, but I
Yeah.
have no idea. And
So
it's
they
like,
got your name and then looked it up.
yeah, like an 8th grader.
I love when people ask me randomly.
you got to start getting them to buy our bags.
Yeah,
Tell
yeah.
these 8th graders, hey, take that lunch money and buy
Yeah,
some
by the way,
yield,
you could
buddy.
buy some friend tech on the whale
Kid,
thing
do you
now.
like
Yeah, just
anime?
get a wheel mark.
Are you an anime fan, kid?
Yeah. Do you like anime?
I have a revolutionary token for you. This is gonna change your life.
Yeah, it's called anime.
It's called
It's gonna blow your mind. It's really,
You
No,
like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon? Kid?
Right,
Look
right.
at this. This is gonna change your life.
That's a crazy story. I've gotten like
That's been the weirdest
yeah,
thing. That's been the weirdest like.
I've gotten that a lot also for about you and a few other people like I had like some normies who are somewhat in Twitter and they're like they'll send me a tweet from that you posted
that I posted.
yeah, and they're like, oh man, this Deeze guy, right? Like he must be worth like $500 million. Are you really friends with him? Like, yeah, I'm really friends with him.
Divide that by 500.
Literally, so I'm in Let's Lab, and just the other day, people were posting your tweets about something, being like, "Oh, Deeze is still in this coin. Like, I think it's good." And I was like, but they were like, "Oh, doesn't he just buy the top on everything?" And I was like, "No, guys, he's like a pretty good trader. Like, he just also isn't afraid to tweet when he buys the top on things."
People are very like they have selective memory.
Yeah.
Some people will only remember you by like three of your tweets.
Yeah.
And you don't know what 3 of those tweets they are, but that's their reflection of you. Like some people, if they looked at the last 4 weeks of what I've tweeted, they could get 2 different pictures. You get a picture that I'm a savant genius who doesn't lose any money, and you could get a picture that I will lose $500,000 on the dumbest shit and not think twice. And depending on what tweets you read, you can make the case for both. And it's like, well, we're all somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, but I like that I think, you know, like you
I
said,
want
I
people-
love that you're honest about that versus people
get a
who are
lot
just
of-
shill bags and then walk away
I get
from
a
it and
lot
don't
of DMs,
say.
especially from artists who are like, hey, I appreciate that you're sharing that, like, you're taking some big losses. Like, a lot of people in our friend groups are like, hey, I just hit this 10x on whatever. No one is like, hey, I just lost 80%.
Yeah.
And it's nice that, like, it's not nice that you lost a bunch of money, but it's nice that you tweeted it to remind us all that, like, we're risking capital on complete vapor in the hope that we can sell it to a potential greater fool later on for more vapor. And
which kind of sucks.
it does suck.
Because like that, and that's why like I really hate setting out anything because
I just try to be honest with it.
well, also because like, you know, I'm like, hey, you want, like, someone's like, you want a coin, go ahead, but like, you may also be my exit liquidity. Like, I don't
really tweet about memes
yeah,
too much.
it's so
just
hard
'cause
for me to say
I think
that
like you
stuff.
have to either be all in like Deeze's, where it's like I
Yes,
tweet about everything all the
correct,
time,
agreed.
or like don't,
or
Like,
don't
I
or don't at all. Like,
yeah, I tried
no.
really hard to not be the person, unless I'm like interacting with a friend where I know we both own the same thing.
Correct, agreed.
I just never want to be the person who's like randomly tweeting out like, I'm in this coin today, or like there's a lot of people who I've seen over the last year where like my opinion on them has changed a little
Yes.
bit
Yeah.
with the way that they have interacted with meme coins, and just like the way that they are very clearly just trying to shill whatever bag they have at the
There's
moment.
a bunch of people I think of from the punks cohort of 2021 who,
Yeah.
when I see them circling a meme coin, I just get the fuck away. Like very recently, there was that inaccurately marketed X copy shit coin that was
Oh,
really
yeah.
just a wrapper to turn the Fly Open Edition
Yeah,
into a
I lost 1.5 ETH on that.
But like that was something where the people promoting it is a group of early punks people who I've seen promote 30 plus absolute dog shit projects that are never getting attention for more than like 48 hours. So I know when they tweet it, it's like, I'm just going to stay the fuck away from whatever that is. And normally I like to see them buy my shit after. It's like a lot of these people bought Node Monkeys after we bought Node Monkeys. And I like that, but I don't want to buy the flavor of the month thing.
Oh no, do they like puppets?
No, I'm so shocked at the amount of people who tell me, I looked at the puppets when you were tweeting them and they were just so fucking stupid. So I bought
So
another.
bullish.
I bought another thing, and then that other thing didn't go up. And man, those puppets, like I should have bought one. And I'm like,
I want the cope to continue for puppets and quantum cats.
I've been getting that now because I've been tweeting about on-chain Gaios.
Yeah.
The amount of people who have DM'd me and just gone, hey, why do you like them? Just like look them up in any way. I'm not just gonna lay, like, we don't talk about these things. Why am I gonna lay out to you my entire investment thesis for why I have bought a
here's
bunch
my
of on-chain
investment thesis
Gaios?
on on-chain Gaias for the people listening. Sinez DM'd me and said, mint this. So I minted it.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to sell it.
Yeah.
That's my investment thesis.
That whenever anyone asks, I say I like Sinez and it's a cool NFT project on Base, and I have done no other research.
You know,
they're like, oh, what is it going to be? And I go,
Yeah.
I literally don't know, and I do not care.
I the biggest nut I've ever made in crypto is on Strat. I mean, I guess Bitcoin also, but Stratus, right? And I'll never forget the night it happened. I was with 2 of my best friends in my whole life, and I was in the back seat. There were 2 of them in the front seat. We were trading, and I hear them talking, and they're talking, and I'm like, "What are you guys talking about?" Like, all right, you should tell him. He's like, "Yeah, tell him."
Tell him. It's like a drug.
He's
It's
like,
got a new
I don't know
drug."
why, but I have this feeling Stratus might explode. It was like at 22 cents at the time. I had some, I didn't have a lot. I literally, while he was saying, the second he said it, on my phone at the time, because like, you know, and actually I had to go home, I think, to the computer, because back then it was different. But I literally unloaded everything I had.
All in.
And I just went all in. And I didn't ask a question. I didn't care, and that's the left curve brain thing
had
that's
a
going on
guy-
now. And I just had again, somebody sent me a deck. They said it's like an AI thing and it's going to this and
It's AI gaming.
yeah, whatever
All
it
in.
was. And they're like, and it wasn't a lot of money. I'm like, done. Just they're like, oh, can I send you the deck? I was like, I don't need to see the deck. Like, what do you mean I don't need this deck? I'm like, I don't care.
You said it's AI.
You said it was AI.
Like-
You're smart. Okay. Like,
I had that happen recently with a friend. I won't name drop the project for this, but who like DM'd me about investing in their project, and like I was familiar with it, and he was like, "Yeah, like we're closing out a round. If you want to get in, I'll send you all the deck and information." And I was like, "No, it's cool. Just tell me how much money I can send." I was like,
Right.
Let me know how much I can give you, and I'll give it to you. I don't need any
There's
other
certain
information."
people like that where you have a relationship with them where anything they do, if it's at a reasonable enough valuation, you're just like,
yeah, I mean, like if it's not asking a ton, like, look, obviously this is stupid money being thrown all over the place. Like, most of it's going to zero, right? But there's just something about, sometimes just like I don't need to understand anything.
Yeah, well, it's like I could either, I own more Nubcat than I own of this of equity in this guy's company. Like when you think about it like that, it's like, yeah, I would gladly dump my Nubcat for more
like
equity.
you're like, well, I'm sitting on $100,000 in MFR. Like,
Yeah.
should I put a $25K check into this thing?
This
Maybe.
isn't coming out for a while, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have
So like
couple
also
months.
same thing. Somebody texted me and they're like, I love Shark Cat. And it reminded me of, you ever watch
Shark Cat.
the movie Wall Street?
Wolf of
Wolf of Wall Street?
No, Wall Street. The movie Wall
Oh,
Street.
like Gordon Greco?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's like, blue horseshoe loves what's that line or something like that. And then he hangs up the phone and then everybody starts buying the stock. That's how it felt. And I was like, it's like buy,
All in.
like all in. Like I don't even think about it. Like I like that guy. He's smart. Okay. Blue horseshoe. What's the line? Blue.
I don't remember. For angel investing though, how have you changed this cycle versus last cycle? Because last cycle, it was the first time that I really had any deal
Yeah.
flow access.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that came from accruing all that social capital, buying art,
Yeah.
being public, was deal flow access.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was something I never dreamed of, honestly. Like I never thought like, oh, I'll be popular on Twitter and then that'll get me access to private rounds that
Yeah.
are very competitive.
So for me, it's actually really simple. And it's probably, again, I am not a great investor. I'm being very upfront. I am doing a lot less with smaller checks.
Yeah.
So like that to me is like, I rather like take $100,000 to $200,000, invest in 10 companies than take 200,000 and invest in one company. That,
So you're spreading out a bunch of small bets.
yeah, pretty much. I'm like, look, I can't do big ones. If you want me involved, I could do 10, 15, 20, but that's like usually my max at this point. And the truth is I know also because like, look, when it comes to VC stuff, I mean, you probably know this more than anybody here. 99% of the time it goes to zero.
Yeah. Well, I just realized recently I had no idea there's a company that I had invested in 2021 who I had marked to zero. Apparently, they've pivoted to
They
an
got a
AI
token out?
They've pivoted to an AI project, and people are very bullish on it. And I'm like, sick. I invested in their seed round a long time ago. And now I think
No clue. That's so
but like,
funny.
I had just assumed that it was worth zero at this point. But yeah, I kind of in a similar vein. I really, for the most part, have cut back. It's like it's honestly, it has to be someone who I don't need to see the deck. It has to be something where they DM me and say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing," and I'm like, 100%, yeah, I don't even care what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if it's not that, if it's something where I have to think about it and know, the way that I've been thinking about it is, okay, let's say I put 20 grand into this company thing. Would I rather have 20 grand more Solana or
Staked.
Yeah,
You're like,
stake
okay,
Solana.
I think
than-
I'm going to make a triple on Solana.
Correct.
Plus 7%
7% and-
APY on it. If I think I can only make a 5 to 10x on this angel that's locked for at least a year,
yeah.
why would I take that?
Yeah.
I've been the same. I've definitely taken slightly bigger bets this cycle, but small, like not a big
More
quantity.
concentrated on it.
Yeah, like
Really
Monad.
high.
Monad was the perfect one where it was like, okay, I'll put double a normal check into this because this is such a like higher conviction play. Like it's coming out at hundreds of $1 million valuation, but when you look at the ecosystem of what is an L1 worth that has users and community, it's like over 5 billion. Like, okay, I'll bet heavier on that. But last cycle I made like 16 or so smaller angel checks. This cycle I've only made 3. And it's been a lot of, well, last cycle I kept too much liquidity in ETH NFTs, which have gone down. I don't ever really want my cost basis of my angel portfolio to really be more than 5% of my net worth. But right now it's probably closer to 10 because Blur, Arbitrum, there's been a couple like decent wins. So I was like, okay, I'll put some more of the winnings back in. Like, I feel like if I make money off an angel, I'm more likely to take the money I made and put it into a new angel rather than just like completely roll it out. But I'm starting to realize like having a couple of these monthly unlocks is huge. Like if
It's
you
like a
just,
salary.
if you have Blur and Arbitrum coming in every month, it's like you don't really, as long as tokens don't go to zero, you're pretty comfy. And if you can get a half dozen unlock things, because these unlock schedules are like 3 years. Like you're getting tokens every month for years. And like you only need a couple of those to hit to like be super comfy. And it's not money you could gamble. It's like, well, if I take that 50 grand, it's like locked up. And sometimes that's actually a benefit. Like taking it out of the portfolio, writing it off to zero, and then getting a check a year and a half later is like, oh, holy shit. Like,
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest benefits that I had with my experience angel investing so far is just like it literally makes it so you can't overtrade.
you're diamond handing it.
Yeah.
Like once you invest, you can't be like, I don't want it anymore.
Hey, can I get some of that back in USDC?
Yeah. I mean, and also like we're kind of just lucky to be in the spot to have any
No,
angel
the
investments.
deal flow is crazy. but
Have you guys looked into Echo at all?
I haven't made my account,
Me
but
either.
I'm in the.
What's Echo?
It's Kobe's new platform. It's
Oh, okay.
basically an angel syndicate platform for crypto.
Can we invest in Echo?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
You
No.
you basically join Echo to join investment syndicate. So like
Oh.
you could be the leader of your syndicate, and then if that investment does well,
That's actually very cool. Yeah.
The way that he's trying to align incentives, I think, is really interesting.
Yeah.
You basically don't make money unless the investment makes money. There's no like, oh, you run a syndicate and there's a
2 and 20.
2% carry and 20% performance. It's like strictly performance. Like
Right.
if you bring a good deal to the table and the people who are in your syndicate make money, you get a cut of it. If you bring a shitty deal to the table and everybody loses money, you don't get any money for bringing a shitty deal.
You bring
to the
those
table.
people in. I mean, actually, that sounds something like that would be very helpful. I go based off of vibes.
Yeah.
It's like if like someone comes to me like, Udi hit me up. He's like, we're almost done. You want to come in? I was like, I can't write you a huge
For
check.
Taproot Wizards?
Yeah. And it's I guess it's Taproot, not Taproot, like so. And I was like, look, I think Udi and Far, I love them. I'm like, I love what you guys are doing. I love who you are. Like I didn't, to me that's like more of the investments I'm probably making. It's like when a friend comes, B, the beauty and the punk. B is doing a really high end fashion kind of like company thing that she just like
I didn't
started
know
to.
that.
Yeah, she
That's
just
just- yeah.
started.
Okay.
I'll tell you about it after.
Yeah.
But like same thing. She's like she sent me. She just finished a deck. This was just this week, and I was like, wow, this looks really good. Like okay, like I know B. I think her vibe is awesome. I know she's gonna work her ass off, even if she's not successful. I don't care. But
It's
if I
like
can
you're
help,
supporting somebody
Correct.
that you want to see.
and if they are successful, then they made it, and I'm like, great. Then like you make money, and like to me that it gives me a stronger relationship with that person. I love to like talk with them and see what's going on, and so I think that's sort of where I'm going now with like our VC investments a little bit more. I'm trying to treat it like art. It's like okay, like
I think that's a good way to put
I
it.
like
Fight
that
for the
person.
culture, assume you lit it on fire.
Correct. I want to see that person's career go. If it gets lit on fire, all right, I still have
You
a
did
nice
it for
piece
the
of
culture.
art. I did it for culture, like I did it for vibes, sort of thing. So like that's kind of my mindset. I would like to see more artists, and I've been pushing a bunch of them to do more things like that. You don't
Like rather than just put out editions or 101s, you're
yeah,
saying
like make something else. Like the problem is we got stuck in this world where it's like an artist might have felt that they needed to make a PFP in order to make a company or to promote their brand, but I don't know if that's so true. Meaning, like you could promote your brand in different ways and start your own company, and it doesn't have to, like it has Web3 involved. I think there's some artists that would, creators would benefit a lot from that.
Have you guys you guys are way more connected to the artist world than I am. How have you guys sensed like that their overall sentiment over the last 2 years as things have been bad? Like, have a lot of people been reaching out to you for advice? Like, I see a lot of people who I follow now are like shitcoining as well. They're just like, oh, fuck it, I'll meme coin too, and play that game. Like, what's been your experience with those with artists?
I think it's a couple different camps of them. Like, there's definitely a camp of artists who are, I'd say, like good shitcoiners or like good enough that it's worth their time, and they have pivoted. Like, two people who come to mind. Like, I see Joelle crushing.
I always see her doing airdrops and meme coins and
heavy.
She didn't give up, and like I totally agree. And
her Mike Schmidt. There's a couple
Mike.
people who are like, hey, I'm pretty open about my story, and like I made a bunch in the Uniswap summer times, and it was like recognizing, hey, this is a unique opportunity. You can take advantage of it or not, but like you don't get pockets of time like this all the time. So like it's okay to take 80 or 90% of your attention and put it into something that isn't your craft temporarily if it's going to give you a bunch of time in the future to work on your craft.
And I think it's a lot like a lot of us why we like Bohm so much, because it was like
Bohm created
dark forums, Batsu, like all these like really good artists and creators.
I haven't seen artists make more money since literally Art Gobblers.
Yeah.
Like Art Gobblers was the thing I still get thanked for tweeting about the tool.
Yeah.
Because I literally, when Art Gobblers was coming out, would tweet like, hey, if you're an artist, you might want to make something with this tool. Maybe you'll get something later on. And then like people got an Art Gobbler, they sold for over 10 ETH, and that sold for more than all of their work sold combined. Yeah. And like shit like that's just cool to see. But there's definitely another group of artists who have just been burned out, quit. And that's to be expected. Like expectations were just way too high in 2021. And we told people this, even as we fed into those delusional expectations ourselves with purchases and whatnot. But like we told them, hey, this is crazy and it's not going to last like this forever. And at some point in time, like there's going to be a new normal. We don't know what that is, but it's not going to be like every day X copies are selling for 5 million. That just probably isn't sustainable. And now we got to the point where like people finally realized, hey, maybe this is the new normal. I can either trade shit coins and take advantage of this right now, or I can just like go wallow in self-pity. Which I think there's a good amount of people who just went back to Instagram or went back to whatever they were doing before, and they just left NFTs completely. And I'm sure they're going to come back when Nifty Open Edition season is back and all that. But there's a group of people who really, I think, are like crushing it right now, not as artists, but as
just crypto
DJs.
People.
Well, I think that they entrench themselves into the community, so they were able to understand it, you know. And like, look, I have no problem. I always say this: I have no problem with people just coming back. Like, I'm not trying to knock artists that left. And I get sometimes people needed to leave for psychology and this, but I've said this on tweets. Like, I will though, not that I won't ignore them, but people who have stuck here through the thick and thin.
It's a badge of honor. It's something that...
I think there's something else to say, like, hey, these people really understand what it means to survive here. It makes me want to invest more into their path than somebody who's like looked inward. And again, I'm not saying like, look, here's a perfect example. Like, actually, like, I liked Sia's project. Souls. I did. I thought the Souls thing was really kind of cool. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I did with my kids. I liked it. To her, this place was too much. And I get it. Because like after that drop and the pricing and this and like, it was a lot for her, right? So like I understand she basically needed a social media break for a long time if she ever comes back. But like, if she came back, I would be like, great, I'm glad that you're here. I kind of like Souls, but I'm also going to respect the guys from Chimpers a lot more who like never stopped working, right? Yep. And again, some people are working in the background and that I respect. But a lot of times they just didn't, and they're like, I needed a break, which again, I understand. But there's something to say about like understanding the community and aspects of that, and like watching someone like Joel and Mike and others crush it. It's like, I mean, this is what we're here for, right?
The Bohm pre-sale, man, that was like a 0 to 1 event for people.
And saved a lot of them. So I think we're running out of time. So I want to ask you 2 more last questions. If we had to ask you what your biggest fear is
I don't know. Biggest fear now is either not being able to to procreate or losing all of my money in some dramatic
Boating accident.
hack or yeah, like pretty good about OPSEC and pretty good about backups and all that stuff, but there's always that mild paranoia of like, what if I fuck something up and like
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that just the
Can't
other
get
day.
that
That like
back.
I'm due to do a like, let me buy 3 more ledgers and back things up and throw one at my
so I've done
parents'
this,
house.
I've only
and
done it
Put it
once.
to locations.
I've only done it one time, but I did do like a disaster recovery. Hey, if this all goes to shit, like, can I get a crypto steal out, read it, all 24 words, and enter it, and like, does it work? And like, I did that last cycle when I got that stuff, just to make sure, like, hey, like I got a new laptop. Let me use this new laptop as like a dummy of like recovering stuff just to see like, does this work? And then you have this sigh of relief when it does work. You're like, holy shit. Like those are the right 24 words. And like, that is my wallet.
But it's interesting because those are two things: not being able to procreate and losing all your money.
It's survival.
Well, also it's two things you actually don't have control over, right?
Well, I mean, with procreating, it's maybe on me for smoking too much weed, so I have to stop smoking weed. Then there's IVF, like that route. Like there are things we can do.
But I'm saying in the sense of like, you know, yes, not smoking pot definitely will help, but getting pregnant, like I remember doing with Amira the first time, and it was tough.
Yeah.
Second time was even harder. But
And
you
you're just
know,
praying.
yeah, and it's like same thing with my bags. Like I think, you know, what I'm curious with you is like, is it's not having that control? Is that the fear? Because like that's something that's really hard. It's like we can't really control our bags. We could try to, but inevitably, like if there's a catalyst in the market, like you're done, right? Like
Yeah, there's a
nothing you can
Solana exploited. All
do.
goes to
Yeah,
zero.
correct,
Like,
exactly.
I took a calculated risk, but man, I was bad at math.
Right.
so bad.
I
so
didn't
bad.
realize I could lose 80% of my net worth in
Yeah.
one token. No, I do think the lack of control. I'm definitely somebody who likes to have control. I think most people are.
Yeah.
Giving up that control is just life, though. Like I probably have to get over it, but it's my biggest fear are things I can't control. Like I'm not worried about paying a mortgage bill or like, I don't know. I'm not worried about much. It's more like, can we create a family? And is there some way that I'm not thinking of where we can lose all this money? And that's the reason why, like, I have, I don't know, 25% of our net worth in equities and bonds. Because it's just this nice thing of like, I can log into Fidelity and there's a whole nother world here. And like, it's
Can't get rugged.
it's kind of comfy. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, there's my SPY, and like stocks are going up, and there's the money I might owe in taxes, and it's getting like 5.2%. Like, that's nice. And then I go to crypto, and I'm like, just riding a roller coaster
Yeah.
of
Back and forth.
$5,000 up and down. But it's nice to have the stability because I know, okay, if I do lose all the crypto stuff, like we can actually be pretty fine with just the equities and the bonds. Like it
And
would,
your home
it would be a
Yeah.
different
Property.
lifestyle, but like we don't need to sell our house
Yeah.
or like we don't need
Yep.
to.
It's a big deal.
Now would I take out $100,000 of that and like try to run it back? Of
Yeah.
course.
It'd be weird if you didn't.
I owe it to I owe it to myself. But
Bet on yourself.
will the chunk stay in there? And as prices go up, like I sell stuff and move it in there just because it lets me be more degenerate with what I have if I know I don't have everything all in. Like if I take that 25% out, then I can actually be riskier with what I have in because I know that like I'm good outside of it. Whereas when I'm all in, I'm like scared to make moves because I'm like, this is my whole stack.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said there where like having some out just lets you take dumber risks. And sometimes those risks don't work out. But sometimes they do. And I don't know. I think everybody should. Once you have like if you have over 5 million on paper, like you should take $1 million out and just have it in fucking bonds. and stocks.
You know, people, that's the greed part of it. And I think that people have to learn that lesson.
I
like
learned
you,
it
by the way, I
last
haven't.
cycle-
I
last
still,
cycle I learned it.
like you were saying, you're forcing me to sell because I still haven't learned it. You know.
Well,
so,
I was literally begging Benny. I'm like, Benny, just 50% of what you have right now.
I did. I sold more than that, and I'm very happy.
But you there's this thing too we should talk about where when people tell you to sell, you don't want to sell more. It's like this, depending on.
It's a classic. Oh, I don't want to do it because you told me to do it. I don't want to do
Yeah,
it.
it makes you more bullish.
Like we were doing this with BOEM, where
Yeah.
certain people who weren't in the BOEM pre-sale were telling us at $2 billion on the Binance pump we should sell, and we're like, "Fuck you! You missed the whole move. Why would you tell?"
You're just jealous.
Exactly. And
They probably were. They probably were jealous.
It was probably a mix of them being jealous and also being right,
But
or
they
not
care-
even realize they're being right because
Yeah.
they were jealous.
Yeah.
and some of them genuinely care about you. And
Yes.
they're like, "Hey, you just turned $2,000 into 500. Like maybe you should cash out 500."
KD like always texts me. He's like, "Did you take out your initial?" I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Are you lying to me?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I'm lying to you." You know, and he's like,
you're like,
"Just take
Because
out
when my
your
initial
initial."
doubles, you're gonna feel real
Exactly.
fucking stupid.
And then
I
it
actually
doesn't,
put
and-
more in when you told me to sell.
Yeah.
So that's a problem I've had where like I don't want to take advice from other people on that stuff, and it
Yeah.
actually messes with my own psychology. But on the other side, like when I see Benny or Sobi last night, I'm the other person where I'm like, you need to sell. Like Sobi, you just put in. I'll just make up numbers because I don't remember, but like puts in 8 ETH in the anime token at 2 mil, and now it's worth 30, and he's looking at like over 100,000. It's like you gotta sell something. Like you just.
Just at least take out
Now
your
I'm over
initial.
here with 50. I'm like, well, my 50 is gonna be worth 100, so I'm not gonna sell.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you to sell.
Right.
And then
So
I don't know, man.
you just started writing articles,
I did.
and I
I'm
think
2 articles in.
2 articles in, and they've been amazing,
We're at 1,300 subscribers after
Which is-
2 articles.
Pretty good.
which is great. And I think there's something about people wanting to hear your story, and like I know this is going to be a tough question. We kind of touched on it, but like you're going to continue writing these articles
For sure.
You know,
Sporadically.
You know, let's say like we'll take that boating accident one day, and now Andy and I have to run a Twitter Spaces in your memory, right? You know, we'll do it. What do you, with writing these articles and starting to share more, what do you want your legacy to be?
I just want to make the world a better place than I left it. Like I don't really have an overarching goal. It's like I've spent a lot of time over the last year just listening to way too many podcasts and reading way too many biographies and shit of other people who lived very fruitful 50 plus years throughout their life. And I resonate a little bit with their legacies, but like I don't have the drive in me that they have to really cement my legacy. Like I don't think you're ever going to see like my name on the side of a building. Like I don't have like that drive of I need to make hundreds of millions of dollars to like get my name all over the city. Like in Columbus, there's fucking Les Wexner's name on like every building, and it's like the dude's 90-year-old billionaire who started L Brands, which is Victoria's Secret, and he like you know might be a pedophile and you know involved in Epstein.
Up in the air, we're not
and all
sure
this
yet.
shit.
Yeah.
But like I don't have drive in me to leave that big of a legacy. It's more like just trying to leave the world a better place than I found it. So how can I take whatever unique experiences I've had and show other people like you can come from a poor family in the middle of nowhere with an internet connection and you can make it out. Like you don't need to make excuses for yourself. You don't need to complain. Like if you grind and get lucky, you can make it out. And a lot of the most successful people in history are people who come from nothing. It's like they're orphans. They're broke. They came from Europe to America on a ship where 50% of the people who took the trip died. Like they do all this hard shit. And we live in a world now where it's like you're on social media all day. You see all these highlights. You see everybody succeeding all the time, but you don't really see like the work they put in, the struggle to get there. So by writing stuff, it's just me. The first thing I wrote in particular was like, why would you listen to me? Or why do like people click on my Twitter and they're like, you have 250,000 followers. Like, why do people follow you? So that was why I wrote the first article. It's like, well, why do people follow me? I don't know. Like, here's my story. And this resonates with some people of like, oh, you can really come from nothing and get lucky and make it out. And I think that's what I learned through like listening to all these biographies and founders and shit was just like so many of the most successful people come from nothing and then they turn into something. But today, a lot of people who come from nothing think it's over. Like they're just like, just going to be poor my whole life. Because I thought this way when I worked my old job. I just thought, this is it. It's 30 years of this and 10 years on a beach, and then you die. And then you come to a point where you're like, holy shit, like I have agency over my own life and can like take risks and make decisions that I didn't think were possible to be made. So I just try to share, like the second article was much more of a journal entry because I find myself getting too caught up in wasting time. Like I'm tied to Andy, like just I'm on Twitter constantly, but there's times where like I need to focus my attention to just see the bigger picture. So I wrote that second article as like here is a way that I find high signal information. And it's also a reminder to me to like look in those areas more often and spend less time just like in the fucking Twitter torrent of new tweets from 7,000 people. So if I can, I think that was a really long way of saying if I can leave the world.
Can we clip that so when we do our memorial service on Twitter, we could play that?
The memorial service.
Listen, I think I'll let Andy say, I'll say something, let Andy will wrap it up. But, you know, Deeze, I think that you personify community in so many different ways. I think that your writing that you're doing now, and so I brought it up, is something that probably is really, I think, describes you in a nutshell in a lot of ways.
Writing sucks too. Like, let me say this, like sitting down and writing stuff
not easy.
Sucks.
Yeah.
When we worked on Fractional, I had deadlines of like, hey, we're putting this thing out. You got to have an article. When you're writing for yourself, there's no deadline. And it's like, I just don't feel like doing it right now. Like it took me 3 weeks to write the last one. And the one before that took me half a year because I was just so sporadic with it. I'm definitely going to publish more frequently, but it's hard to write. Like I have another appreciation for just writing after sitting down and trying to write things. Because it's like, if I don't get excited reading it back to myself, I don't think other people are going to get excited reading it. And then I don't want them to like, wow, Deeze is just wasting my time blowing smoke into the fucking atmosphere with a whole bunch of pointless words. So it's like trying to write something that is fun, engaging, something that I would want to like read myself. And then I don't know what I'm going to write next. I have like a dozen topics. I want to write about things I learned angel investing. I think that's a pretty decent article, but there's a lot of people who've already written, here's 10 things I've learned in angel investing.
Yeah,
so
but
it's like,
I think
Those are all, a lot of them are pretty bullshit though, to be
correct.
honest.
And it's also like from your perspective, and your perspective is going to be unique to theirs because you're own.
Definitely have to write about art collecting.
Yeah, for sure.
What I've learned is doing voice memos is actually a better way to start writing than sitting down.
So you say it and then you...
Yeah, so I got this. There's a podcast I listen to called How I Write. The guy who does it, his name is David Perel, but he basically talked about using like dictation services to write his outlines. And I was like, oh, that's kind of smart. So I started doing it where I just go for a walk and then you do a voice memo where you just talk about what's on your mind. You're like, oh, like, you know, when I angel invest, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. I shouldn't be doing small checks that are like, I want to say no, but don't want to say no. So I do a small check and then it goes to zero. And then I regret doing a small check. But like just talking through things to myself on the phone, you get a long list of shit. And then when you sit down, you kind of have an outline already where if you're just trying to start from zero and then you go in and you're like, okay, what did I learn from angel investing? It just doesn't flow. Like I find myself not getting anything on the paper and then I close it in like 30 minutes and then I don't think about it. So I'm starting to just talk more and then see what, you know, is interesting from what I say. And then if anything's super interesting, then I can just outline it and then start writing more about it. And that's going to be how I write the next article.
Well, I hope that you keep writing. I
have to. So one thing we learned last cycle is how important owning your distribution is as a creator. And like, if we lost Twitter, we'd be fucked.
Yeah.
Twitter is so important for engagement metrics, like even for the pod and stuff, like getting sponsorships.
And provenance, 100%.
People are taking the Twitter numbers as the most important.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, you have all these followers, you get all these impressions. Like, so having a newsletter, like I've seen, is it Milk Road was?
Yes. Yeah.
That sold for 8 figures. Yeah. And it was a year old. And it was like, they didn't even have 100,000 subs. So then I started thinking to myself, like, if I started a newsletter last bull market and 50% of my Twitter following subbed to it, I would have had a newsletter bigger than that. And like,
so interesting.
then I realized, I'm doing myself a big disservice by not at least having some type of written communication channel that I own that isn't intermediated by a social media platform. So that was another big reason, because like we can push the podcast out. Like if you do a weekly or 2 weeks every article, push the podcast out, push sponsorships, let people know, hey, these are the 5 things on my mind or 5 degenerate things I'm doing. And then I don't know, it feels better than tweeting about it all the time. So
There's more substance to it. So like,
And
it kind of gives you a little bit of more window of who you are rather than just one tweet where you have to, like you say, compound to understand that individual more based off of 100 tweets versus one.
there's no way
piece
for
of
someone to click on my Twitter and look at my top 50 tweets
I
of
didn't
like,
even
why
know.
is Deeze? Like
Yeah.
what are his bangers? I have a bot or it's called Tweet Hunter. It's an extension. But when you go on someone's page, it'll show you their most liked tweets from all time.
I didn't know that.
But most people,
He teaches me so much about technology.
I know.
most people don't
Taught me
use,
so much about stickers on my phone.
Oh
No,
my God.
Telegram stickers are the fucking
No,
best.
No.
On
He's
your
making-
iPhone, I get
Oh, yeah.
when you
stickers.
press,
Yeah.
like if you take a picture of your cat.
It's zero
Yeah.
clue. He's
So I
telling me all
have Benny
this.
stickers on my phone.
Oh, that's great.
But that was another reason writing the article. Like I had so many conversations on the pod about scheduled summary and focus. And I was like, why don't I just write this down?
Yeah.
Because it seems like people don't realize this
No.
exists. And then the same thing happens. They read the article and they're like, holy shit, you can schedule summaries?
Yeah, like
And
I
it's
feel
like,
like
yeah, you don't need any notifications on your phone.
unless you're having that direct conversation with you and you're like, oh, this is what it is. But like when you mention it, like to get to a broader audience,
Yeah.
that's the case. So
And it's nothing like I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just showing people like this is what I'm doing. And I also want to do it so that people can tell me what they're doing. And then maybe I can get better at things. Like
yeah.
I'm sure there are tools for shitcoins that I'm not using that are better than Dex Screener, Photon, and BonkBot and Shoryuken.
Bunk
But like
Boy.
I just don't know they exist. And sometimes you're on Twitter. Like
I wish you never sent me Bonk Boy, man. That thing or Bonk Bot, whatever.
BonkBot's a life ruiner.
It's like it's just
Benny
drain,
did not
drain-
need a way to gamble.
No.
On
That's
that.
why I use Photon first one.
like oh can't. It's too much for me. It's like
Photon
nonstop.
I was using later. So like BonkBot was the first one, and then I think Easy.
Is Photon on an app also?
It's a web app.
No, it's a web app.
Okay, good. So that means I'm not going to use it.
No, you're good.
No.
But yeah, letting people know how you're doing things lets them let you know what you could be improving.
It's like when you FUD a coin on Twitter, so people give you the investment thesis for it.
Yeah.
When you're like, I think that this chain is fucking stupid
Yeah.
because I don't get it. And then everyone's like, well, here's why you're wrong. Here's a full
Yeah,
detailed
here's a
list
full
of all the
detail.
reasons
me
that
on
it's good.
DGens L3.
Yeah.
So we got you a present.
Oh,
Yeah.
We did? It's heavy. It's limestone.
what?
No, not actually. That's Allie's.
I didn't know what it was. I just wanted you to hold it.
Is it gonna
pretend like
hatch?
you got? No. Is it gonna hatch?
No, I don't believe so.
And is with that, I just wanted to say, these. I think that and I'll let Andy speak elsewhere. I love you as a friend. I love what you're doing in this space. I think continue doing what you're doing because you're really. I think you're reaching a lot more people than you realize, and I think a lot of people are really getting a lot from you. And I know this was, we wanted to do this podcast for a while. Next time we'll do Andy, but you're somebody who we vibed right away with, and we've been great friends since. And I think that there's the more honest you are, the more honest this community can be. And I wish we had more people with your stature and your likability and your follower count and all that was honest, because that would make this whole kind of situation better. So I appreciate you letting us do this. I'll let you close it.
No,
Andy.
this was fun. And yeah, I think like piggybacking off of that, something that I appreciate about the way that you present yourself is like you were talking about with you and Jess and how if you lost all your money, you could watch
Yeah.
TV and eat shitty food. Like I think that it's really, really healthy for people to not, those all the memes about can you retire with $10 million?
Can you retire off that?
But it's just like most people who reach the level of like follower and influence that you have on Twitter and like in crypto generally do it from like flaunting wealth and like getting people to want to try to copy trade them to be able to go to Bali and go club and all this stuff. And so I think it like really says something about you that the people who have followed you, it's not because of that. It's just because you're
Yes.
like a very nice person who would. The only people who have ever been like, oh, I don't like Deeze are people who I don't like.
They don't
So
get
true.
to know me that well.
No, I think that they don't
look
know you.
at the surface level of a couple tweets, and then that's their whole view of me.
With great responsibility comes great power, and I think that you've personified that.
And that's why
very
Benny's
much.
gifted you this.
That's why I got you
Benny
this
loves
egg.
eggs.
Yeah.
I think more people need to be more honest, and it's just you got to be more of what you want to see in the world. Like, if you want more people to be honest, like maybe you should be more honest.
100%.
yourself. Like, if I can make a few people who read my stuff laugh and think about the world differently, then like it's my journal. It's just look at my tweets like I'm having a stream of consciousness journal moment, and then you'll maybe think of me a little differently.
Well, keep journaling.
Keep journaling.
We love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next time we do Andy,
Thank you for the
find out the history of the mustache.
It's not
And,
very exciting.
It's just, well, you have
I'll
time. You
make-
have
I'll
time
make
to make
something
up a
Yeah,
story.
I'll make
So,
something up.
but
There are some funny photos.
yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Love you, Deez.
All right.
Love you.